All right, welcome everybody to the Narragansett Town Council regular meeting for September 19th, 2022. It is 7:31 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll get started with the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August 15th, 2022 regular meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Is there a motion to approve the September 6th, 2022 regular meeting minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Janet, can you remind me if, was there one meeting where a member was not present?
The last one.
The 7th? Okay, great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the September 6th, 2022 executive session minutes?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. And is there a motion to approve the September 7th, 2022 special meeting minutes?
I'll move the motion. Do we know who wasn't there?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Did you weren't there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I
all right,
asked if-
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And one abstention?
Abstain, yeah.
Okay, motion approved 4-0 with one abstention. All right, the next portion of the meeting is our announcements and presentations. Before I send it over to our town manager, Jim Tierney, I did want to address one apparently hot topic that all the council members have been receiving emails and I think a few phone calls about over the last few days, and that is regarding our rental registration here in town. So I just want to clarify to make sure that we're all working off of the same correct information. We are requiring the names of the lessees when a landlord submits their rental registration this year. We discussed this at our July 18th public meeting as we were discussing amending the rental registration for this upcoming year. None of the names submitted in those registrations will be posted publicly in any way by the town, not on the town website and nowhere else. It's for internal use only because we have ordinances that we're looking to enforce. So that information will only be used internally. It is not public. And I know there has been information going around contrary to that, but I want to make that clear. That's always been the case. It's internal only. So hopefully that helps a little bit, but we'll have a chance for everyone to speak a little bit later as well. Let's go send it over to our town manager for the town manager's report. Jim?
Good evening, members of the council and the public here today and those who are watching from home. A few items of interest for the report this week. The water restrictions have been lessened. It's now back to the odd even for the conservation of the water. And we learned that the Superior Court has issued a stay barring the town from enforcing the 3-student ordinance until further notice. We do not have a timeline on when a decision will come down on that, but effective immediately, we will not be enforcing it until the court finishes its review. If there's anyone in the room here that needs some COVID tests, we still have some available for folks. Additionally, I've asked the town council to conduct my annual performance evaluation, which is required by my contract, to be done on October 3rd in the public session in the regular town council meeting. Over this past weekend, there was quite a few events with the Gansett Days and Endless Summer, and that's possible due to all the hard work that the staff work together from different departments. Last week, I sent a notice to all the town staff, and I'd like to read it to the public because it really gets the essence of what these people get accomplished. It simply read, "Good afternoon, everyone. I hope the email finds you doing well. Now, in my fourth year in this role as town manager, I wanted to take this opportunity to again thank each and every one of you for your hard work and sustained effort every day to get the work done. I'm not shy about bragging to the public about how great the town staff are and how much you all get done, often with a tight budget and small staff. I also stress how lucky I am to be working with such an all-star cast. This is also appropriate as we just celebrated Labor Day, which is a day to pay tribute to the contributions and achievements of American workers. Each of you has a role, and honestly, none more important than the other. We don't call the police department when the floodgates open and the tax collector's office gets flooded. And we don't call the tax collector's office when there's a violent person reporting to be threatening people. And we don't call the town clerk when we need town barriers put up when it's 90 degrees out and 90% humidity. And we don't call wastewater when we need a big pothole filled. But working together, all of you get the job done, and you get it done well. I appreciate the advice and counsel of all of you, and that's why I have had and will continue to have an open-door policy. Additionally, I don't want a bunch of folks, staff, that just yeses me. Yet at times, I realize in daily operations, it's a necessity. I encourage all of you to be creative and share your recommendations, suggestions, and opinions with me and your colleagues on how we can always continue to improve in all areas of operation. The past few years have been a great experience working with all of you, and I look forward to continuing our work together. Thanks for all you do. It is appreciated. Thank you. And these folks here are those people, are some of the people that we're talking about. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Next, we have an update from Lori Kelly with the library. If Lori is here tonight. Thought I saw, there you go. Welcome, Lori.
Welcome. Thank you for having us. Let me see if I can get my, yep. All right. So again, I touched on this September 2nd, the meeting after that we did get an agreement with OLIS. We can go to the next page. So we're calling it Pi Day now, September 2nd, when we got the award, because it's 3.14, which you know is like pi. So from now on, this will live in the history of the library project. We can go forward. Okay, so this is basically what it means, and I'll go over in more detail, but the town issued a $5.8 million bond. The OLIS reimbursement, which is $3,143,522, will reduce the amount of bond that the town has to repay, leaving the cost to the taxpayer on the bond somewhere around $2.65 million left on the bond. So again, I know last time there seemed to be some confusion in the coverage of this. This is a stream of payments. It's much like, your homeowner mortgage. You took out a mortgage for $400,000, but if somebody was going to hand you 50% of your mortgage every time there was a mortgage payment due, that's basically what the payback schedule is for the bonds. So I was just taking random numbers of the principal and interest on the $2.4 million, which was issued in 2021, and again in 2022. OLIS is actually, I think it's 53 or 54%, but for simplicity's sake, they will be giving us $90,000 the week before we owe $180,000 to the bond holders. So it's just a pass-through mechanism. We picked a 20-year bond because that's how they reimburse. And this is, a program that's been going on since 1965. So again, OLIS will be paying the principal and the interest over a 20-year period, also origination costs and legal fees for their portion of the bonds. So hopefully that was clearer. I did want to go over the, so the next one. The brief history, which I know we're probably all sick of it, but it's 14 years. So in 2008, we tried to examine our current building to see if we could just raise the roof and put a second floor on. It was exorbitantly expensive. 2011, we hired a library consultant. That's important because none of this OLIS money would have been forthcoming without going through the regulations and having a consultant do a needs assessment on the demographics of the population and the 20-year growth patterns, et cetera, et cetera. 2015, we had a workshop with the council. The council at that time chose stay in the pier, which meant either the Belmont building or our own renovation. 2016, we had 70% of the voters vote to approve the $5.8 million bond. 2018, we actually purchased the building, But then we also had a change in council, and they moved to sell the Belmont building. So again, 2020, a referendum to resume the project passed by, again, another 70%. And then this council comes in and moved quickly to issue the bonds for the payment of the building, the $2.4 million, but also to get the RFP for the architect and to move forward as fast as we could. And so 2022, I'm ending with, Olus awarded us in September the $3.14 million. So where are we right now? We have the bid documents out, and we had a walkthrough of the Belmont building. So we are now waiting to get the construction firms to tell us how much it's going to cost. And that, I believe the bid opening is October 4th, and then we'll select someone, and hopefully groundbreaking comes quickly after that. Our owner's rep, which is Ray Keough Company, advises us it should take about a year from when we start the construction to complete it, which is, again, very exciting after all these delays. So I wanted to go over the costs right now. What we submitted to Olus was around, and these are round numbers, of a $9.1 million project overall. Again, 2.4 for the building cost and 6.5 for the build-out cost, which is the fittings and fixtures and moving it. The prepaid cost you see is because we did, the library and to a lesser extent the town, did pay for various things like the consultants' reports and stuff over the years. So that's costs that are actually project costs that have already been paid from our budget. And you can see on the funding side, we have $1.1 million sitting in the town's account that was transferred from the 501c3 that did the fundraising to us, the $5.8 million in bonds, the town loan, which was 1.5 when we structured it, but we have already reduced that by the $400,000 that came from the Champlain grant. So now it's down to 1.1. We would advise that, again, we're going to apply in January, so that's another $400,000 to $600,000 on the Champlain grant, and we continue to get donations, which will be transferred, probably more higher donations towards the end of the fourth quarter of this year that will be transferred back to the town to reduce that town loan exposure. We did have about $500,000 in the fund balance for the library. A lot of that was fines and fees and donations, and not just taxpayer funds. There was a small amount of taxpayer funds, but there were also assigned fund balances of the old Maury Luchins Memorial Fund, which was to be used for capital projects only. And then again, I'm just showing the prepaid funding that we'd already paid on the cost side. Okay, so again, 2015-16, we were estimating about $3 million to renovate the building, and then we were assuming we could fundraise about $1 million on top of that, so we'd have a healthy contingency fund. But of course, when we bought the building, nothing happened for a really long time, and we did have escalating costs, which is bringing us to the 6.5 of the building purchase. I do want to reiterate, though, that having this building purchased already for the 2.4, we could not build anything like that. When we purchased it, the previous town engineer said that it was under $134 a square foot, which we couldn't have purchased any other building for. And if we were starting from scratch right now, you know, the other library projects are really up around $18 or $20 million. So, you know, it was a long road, but there was some advantage to doing it this way. Over 300 donors have currently pledged to the library. This is an old figure of the 1.7. I'm pretty sure it's above that now. The donors have deposited in cash over $1.2 million, and I wanted to do a shout out to the friends who did fundraisers this year, which I know you were aware of, and they raised over $25,000 for us on that. So that was a lot of effort on their part, but deeply appreciated. Okay, this I'm just showing you is the facade of the new building. You can see that not too much has changed. Where you used to go in for your carts is now, that's just going to be windows, and the main entrance is going to be a little bit to the left. You can see there's sort of a sign there, which we haven't agreed on what the signage is going to be, but that would be the main entrance. This is the south elevation, and again, that's the elevation that faces our current library. And you can see that we're hoping to add windows along the length of the building where there were no windows. That would be the children's room right there. And then this, I just, again, because I don't think that many people have come into the library to look at the plans, which are posted on a board there, but this is the layout of the meeting room, the bathrooms, the young adult, the children's, first and second floor. So, I don't want to spend a lot of time tonight doing that, but come by the library. These plans are the plans that were accepted by OLIS. Okay, and then because it's a 14-year project, obviously hundreds, if not thousands of people were involved in this. The library board, the Friends of the Narragansett Library who work so hard and are really our fundraising arm for this project. Love your library, who without them, the building would have been sold and we wouldn't have been able to go forward. Our current and past library patrons and advocates, and of course all the major people who have donated, I don't mean major people, but all the people that have donated some major money to this project, everyone who's dug down deep in their pockets to support us, the staff that went through really almost a war over the years, and the Narragansett voters who have, supported us 70% each time it's come up. And thank you so much to this council who has really been able to propel us forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lori. All right, thanks again, Lori. So why don't we move on to our open forum, public comment portion of the meeting. So this section of the meeting is for anyone who's interested in speaking on any items that are not on the agenda for this evening. So if it's on the agenda, you can go ahead and wait until that item comes up and you'll have a chance to speak. If you'd like to speak about something else, now would be the time. We do ask that everyone conduct themselves in an orderly and respectful fashion, and we limit our comments in this part of the meeting to 3 minutes, and we're going to stick to that. So if you come up, try to be concise because you'll have a 3-minute limit. Also, we are going to cut the public comment short at 8 so we could schedule a public hearing, and then we'll come back and finish up public comment and listen to everyone who's interested. We'll go with the woman in the back. All right, please state your full name and address.
Jonna Miller, Winterberry Drive in Narragansett.
Go ahead.
Upon hearing from my landlord that it is now a requirement with the town that they must post the names of me and my roommates who live in a rental home in a public database on the town website, I immediately had a panic attack. You stated that you instructed the building inspector to assure us that our names will not be made public. However, I am hesitant about taking this information as gospel. Errors have been made in the past. If this information does at some point become public, the damage will have already been done. How can you require the names of college students, young men and women renting in our town when you don't require it for any other renters? What will you do with these names? They are already included on a lease in the house and is not available to the public. This is pure overreach. Is it to harass and target students? Seems so. A sign of discrimination. Will you all take the responsibility when a stalker finds someone by looking into your database? Will you take the responsibility if there is an assault? This is clearly an invasion of privacy and a security issue. Should this information ultimately be accessible to the public, this will be in your hands. Do the right thing and change this policy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Hi, please state your full name and address.
My name is Joseph Franchina. I live at 6 Lauderdale Drive. I've been here since 2003, full-time resident. I listened to the online court appearance this morning regarding the stay, and I'm quite shocked at that, frankly. We had gone through the Providence Rhode Island Supreme Court verifying this effort. This effort's been in the pipeline for a couple of years now, and for this to happen is absurd. I mean, there really is no reason for it. And the fact is, we've just been notified that our water system is now turned on and off for a while longer. We were shut down completely for the whole summer. So our system is in jeopardy here. We are talking infrastructure. Regarding the previous discussion of URI students worrying about safety concerns, everyone has credit cards. We all have those processes. We put ourselves out on the market. That's a very common thing that we do here. But regarding this stay, it's absurd. We need to control the number of people that live in this town. Some mention the fact that there were never any restrictions before, but we had restrictions. It was called the sanitation restrictions of local cesspools within a house that limited number of people to a house. So the 3-student ordinance is doing that, and to take that back only stresses our town further. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, Richard? Please state your full name and address.
Yeah, Richard Vangermish, 55 Osceola. I urge the town of Narragansett to participate in the South Kingston 300th celebration that is going on, starting now, but the bulk of it is in next year, 2023. We were a part of South Kingston for 165 years until 1888. And 165 years in South Kingston. Next year we'll be 135 alone. That's 45%. A lot of very significant events happened in the geographic area of Narragansett from 1723 to 1888. And I hope that we remember that. I'm working, hopefully, with South Kingstown to really understand that some great significant events and people were here from 1723 to 1888.
Thank you, Richard. Right in front here in the gray. Yep. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Adriana Duffy. I live at 71 Jupiter Street in Point Judith. So thank you for allowing me to come speak, but I would first like to bring up the point that you mentioned earlier about the date that the decision was made to have the names listed on the registration. And I would like to state that although, yes, it was in July, that was at a point when the population was at a lower point than it currently is, because there was a lack of students that were involved in that population, which meant that there was a lack of representation for the students in that decision that was made overall. Also, in a point that was previously mentioned about the sanitation issues, this is due to a lack of development within the infrastructure of the town in Narragansett that doesn't have to do with these students, because most of those issues occur during the summer times when students are not in session. Also, I would like to state that I really do believe that you are punishing a very large community for a very small portion of the students' lack of control and behavior, because although there are students that do party and do things that would require a lot of issues with the town, this doesn't necessarily mean that the entire town as a whole would be subjected to the same kind of punishment that these people are performing. And I also just think that it's very unfair given the fact that this town does rely very heavily on the money flow that comes in from the students within this town. And I think that this is not only going to punish the students who live there, but also the landlords. And this is going to cause a lot of landlords to no longer want to own their houses, because why would they want to own houses when they don't feel that they can own their property and do whatever they want with it, which is in their constitutional right. And this is not only going to create issues with the town because people are going to be putting up their houses on the market, but this is also a very interesting time given the fact that the market is currently crashing, and I do think that this is going to create a lot of financial issues for the town. The town council was founded to be able to allow the town to be protected and have a voice for all of their issues and needs, and I don't think that this town council is accurately serving and protecting all of the people within the town. Although the students do make up a transient portion of the population, if you would, because they're not here full-time, they do still reside here for the majority of the year and should be considered when it comes to any decisions that are made for the town as a whole, as they are putting a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets in this room. And I just think that that should be considered when moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your full name and address.
Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic Avenue, Narragansett. Judge Carter's decision today regarding the stay of the 3 student ordinance is a bitter disappointment to the many residents who have fought for this for years. And now we're told that she owns rental property in Narragansett. Hopefully the town will prevail. And in the meantime, there's no reason not to continue to support the 4 unrelated ordinance per the new form with all the names and the enforcement Wayne Pimentel has suggested. You know, it seems as this town, no disrespect over here, it seems as this town just can't govern itself. Narragansett can't self-govern, okay? It's as if a mafia cabal of landlords, mostly who live out of town, have been really the group governing this town for decades. And sadly, 2 of the 5 members of this council, by their comments and past votes, have been supporting and promoting that landlord cabal for decades. And there's no, or for at least for years. And there's no need for me to mention names because everybody in earshot here knows who they are. I just hope that in November, when people go to the polls, okay, they vote for candidates who support resident-friendly zoning ordinances and against those that have been supporting out-of-town landlords. Thank you.
Okay, we could take one more comment before our scheduling, and then we'll come back. In the green, in the middle. Hi, please state your full name and address.
My name is Molly Ahern. I live at 25 Follett Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I would like to begin by reiterating a comment that my friend here in the gray shirt made earlier, that the original amendments to the rental situation were made on July 18th. Can I just get a quick show of hands in the room? Who here is renting for the school year? Who lived in Narragansett on July 18th? Thank you. So I would say perhaps the majority of the people in this room weren't even here to listen to that resolution be made. Just something worth keeping in mind. Additionally, Mr. President, you commented that the ordinance was intended to be kept internal, so not going to be a public database at all. But I and many other Rhode Islanders have some concerns regarding the cybersecurity of such a thing. In fact, as recently as February of this year, the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority experienced a data breach that affected 22,000 residents, making our data public and vulnerable to attack. I don't want the same thing happening to my name and address just because I live in Narragansett. Also, according to the Rhode Island Coalition of Domestic Violence, it is likely that 34% of domestic violence cases since 2006 involved stalking. If such a cybersecurity breach were to occur, 34% of domestic violence victims whose cases involved stalking could be further at risk. A stalker who previously may have had a restraining order could find a resident of Narragansett and stalk them again, stalk somebody else, find a new victim, people who were previously not at all victims of stalking are now vulnerable to attacks such as that. Thank you very much. I yield my time.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a public hearing that we need to get scheduled. We'll come back to open forum. Do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing on the application of Surf Shack Bed and Breakfast LLC for a new Class B Tavern alcoholic beverage license at Assessors Plat C, Lot 344B, 83 Narragansett Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, so this would be a suggested date of December 5th of this year, and that's at the applicant's request. That's why it's pushed so far back. Any discussion from the council? Okay,
I won't be here, but.
you won't be here?
Yeah, I'm at a conference.
Is that all right? Okay. And is there anyone from the public interested in speaking on the scheduling of this public hearing? Okay, does it look like it? All right, we'll go ahead and take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. All right, so that's it for our scheduling. We'll go back to open forum. Please raise your hand. In the black mask in the middle there. Yep. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Catherine Hutchinson. My address is 1087 Point Judith Road in Narragansett. Hello, my name is Catherine Hutchinson. I am a senior at URI, and I am a renter. As a renter, I am deeply uncomfortable with my information being collected in this way. As an American, I believe in my right to privacy under the 14th Amendment. As a woman, I worry that the information collected about my living situation could be leaked or used for malicious purposes. I am not assured by the guarantee of this information being kept private. Cyber attacks are common. How strong is the firewall protecting the database? How can I be sure that passwords won't be stolen by phishing online? How can I be assured that there won't be a data breach, as my friend mentioned with the RIPTA in February of this year, and people's information was stolen? Frankly, Rhode Island's cybersecurity is lacking. As a woman and as a citizen, I believe this puts people in danger, and I wholeheartedly disagree with this motion. Furthermore, will you be putting your names on this list? Are you willing to put yourself at the same risk that you are putting me as a renter? I yield my time.
Thank you. Okay, gray, the gray sweatshirt. Yep. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Grace Kiernan. I'm the Student Senate President at the University of Rhode Island, and I live in the Sand Hill Cove area. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the student body at URI who lives off campus and who are planning on living off campus within the next coming years. I first want to start off today as saying, going off of the past two speakers, as a woman, I am very threatened by this happening. There are 2 level 3 sex offenders living in Narragansett currently, and the fact that I live alone with other girls, it very deeply worries me. Not only because of that, but because we don't know, with today's society, that is not fair for us and our information to be put out that we are living alone for the first time away from our parents in a house type situation. Number 2, the local economy in Narragansett, Rhode Island is based off of summer tourist industries. The economy in the summer. In the winter and fall, your economy is the college students. Some of your smaller local businesses may not be able to survive without the 6,000 students who live off campus during the school year. Gansett Wraps, Crosswind Traders, what are these going to do if you are eliminating this community? Also, where would you like us to go? Would you like us to go sleep on a campground? Because there is no other option. There is no other places in Rhode Island close enough to the campus to live with. We're not commuting an hour to school every single day. URI is our school, is our state's flagship university, and you should want those students to flourish and thrive and be getting the best possible education possible. If they're worried about about their information going public and that the fact that they could be stalked or tracked or everything, or they're driving hours to commute because they're from Connecticut, but they couldn't get housing, so they're commuting an hour and a half each way every day, that's just not fair. So thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you. All right, in the black sweatshirt. Please state your full name and address.
Thank you, fellow Congress members. My name is Ryan Frankel, and I live at 1459 Boston Neck Road. I'm a 21-year-old college student in my senior year at the University of Rhode Island. I am the grandson of 2 South County residents who have been living here for over 20 years. Rhode Island is like a home to me. One of the reasons why I decided to attend such an amazing school like URI. I remember when I was 4 years old, my grandfather would bring me down to the Point Judith Lighthouse. We would look out and see Block Island in the distance. I'm grateful now enough to have the opportunity to share similar moments with some of my closest friends that I've made here. Narragansett is a home for everyone. For the older generations, for the younger generations, for college students, and for non-college students. Look around. I'm sure it's very shocking and not so typical to see 20-year-old college students speaking in front of the Narragansett Town Council. Some of my friends and I decided to come to this meeting tonight because of how important this is for the lives of college students. But they decided at last minute not to show up due to risking their own personal information and their own privacy. This is how severe this ordinance is for college students. I heard the other day that people are out in neighborhoods knocking on doors, checking to see if there are more than 3 people in a house. These people know who they are, and they know that they are targeting college students. I'm sorry, but what gives someone the right to invade someone's own privacy? According to the URI website, housing on campus is guaranteed for undergraduate, international, and visiting students. USnews.com reports that the University of Rhode Island has a total of enrollment of roughly under 14,000 students, but despite URI having guaranteed housing, there is not enough room for the university to house all enrolled students. This ordinance isn't about helping to keep the town of Narragansett a more livable community. It's about control. Some college students are even paying for their own rent and can't even afford living in a 5-person home when there's a 3-person ordinance. It's already enough stressing over having the managed college life and writing essays, studying for tests, and taking part in extracurricular activities. But is it worth having us college students to be fearful of living in a community that we all love? Is it worth having townspeople take unsolicited pictures of properties where college students live? Is it worth snooping around these properties, looking into windows, and deliberately targeting college students? I spent my last semester abroad on a 4-month program in Berlin, Germany, where, being in Europe, Russia had invaded Ukraine. I had gotten up and spoken in front of hundreds of people at demonstrations and protests, calling out the German Chancellor and President Biden to do more about helping the people that have been suffering in this conflict. So I surely know a thing or two about accountability. I've been working on political campaigns since 16, mobilizing and organizing constituents to get out to vote. So I surely know a thing or two about politics and how government works. And rest assured, if nothing changes on this, I will work my butt off to make sure that we get kids out to vote to change this happening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, please state your full name and address.
Ron Catanzaro, 17 Atlantic Ave. Just a quick search, just now sitting here. Twitter had a data breach this year of over 3.4 million users. Facebook had a data breach. Instagram had a data breach. Tinder and God knows how many other dating apps out there have all had data breaches this year. So I understand that security is something and privacy is something we all have. But if anybody in this room, maybe we could take a show of hands, who's on social media? So then you're all exposed every single day, and we have the assurances of the town council that the database is going to remain private. As for the other issue with the three-student ordinance, I have a picture of 12 kids sitting on the top of a garage a week and a half ago with Bear hanging out on a house just across the street on Mansion. I go right by 52 Kingstown Road every single day with 6 cars, 1 on the lawn, 2 diagonal, and 4 in front. It's a 3-bedroom ranch that maybe has 5 bedrooms, 2 kitchens in it. At least I went in when I did the open house to check it out. These are the issues that we're trying to get under control with the 3-student ordinance. Thank you.
All right. In the back in the gray sweatshirt. Please state your full name and address.
Hello, I'm Olivia Kelly. I live on Edgewater Road in Narragansett. I would like to speak pretty briefly on the rental registration process. I understand and empathize with year-round residents and their concerns about college students, and I understand the desire to do a 3-person, 3-student ordinance and 4-person ordinance, even if I personally don't agree with it. I'm originally from South Kingstown, and I agree that it's extremely frustrating to have so many landlords live out of state and reap the benefits of the town when they're not even in it. And I also believe that it is not Narragansett's responsibility to house URI students. It's a privilege to be here, truly. And I follow all the rules because I respect this town and the people that live in it. However, I was informed that the town was looking to register and list each renter in the house in order to better enforce this rule. And I find this is an invasion to my privacy and my roommates and my friends. I understand that this is a way to enforce the ordinance, but I think it's a threat to our safety and privacy. For some renters, it is just plainly disturbing to think that any person could have access to which houses have only young girls living there. For others, including some of my personal friends, it is a real threat. I just want to ask, can you imagine having an abusive ex-boyfriend know exactly where you live when you try to escape him? Or can you imagine what some people might do with any type of that information? I didn't sign my lease knowing that this process would happen, and you can't always control with the information that people have access to. I have 3 sexual offenders who live on my street and in my area. They have all committed crimes between 2019 and 2021. I find that thought very disturbing. And I don't want them knowing that my roommates and I live there, 4 girls. I don't believe that this is a prudent course of action, and therefore I ask the council members to please reconsider this idea and look for other ways to enforce the ordinance that do not put my and my friends' personal information in jeopardy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go with the, yep. Please state your full name and address.
Christopher Hoover, 11 First Street. I'm also the Student Senate Director at Treasury at the University of Rhode Island, so I also speak on behalf of the student body here. I have to ask the question, why? Why are we doing all of these things to discriminate against college students, let their personal information be kept in private databases, whatever you want to call it, and ultimately dividing the community when there's a good opportunity to pretty much bring it together? At a time where it might seem as if college students are at a standoff with some of the older population here in the town, we should use this as an opportunity to bring the communities together. Why are we putting or enforcing all these policies when we do not have student input? All you're having is adult input where, you know, these people have lived here for years, but, you know, you're still going to have students come here whether you like it or not, and there's nothing that's going to change that as long as the University of Rhode Island stands a couple miles down the road. And I live in Connecticut, all right? I don't know why you are asking for my name, my address. You don't need to know that. You govern Narragansett. You do not govern Ellington, Connecticut. So I stand here, and despite all of everything that's going on, I just hope that the town will reconsider and maybe see this as an opportunity not to discriminate against college students, but to maybe bring the community together and make it a place where everyone can be happy and everyone can ultimately live a very happy and fun and fulfillful life, however long it may be, whether 4 years or 50 years in Narragansett. Thank you.
Hi, please state your full name and address.
Giovanna Doldo, 174 South Pier Road. So I'm standing here today as a representative of not only the college students, but the female college students as well. I know we've all stood up here and kind of pressure and belabored the thought that this is incredibly scary for us and can be a potentially incredibly dangerous situation for us. I stand here in front of you at 5'3", about 150 pounds. I'm not going to be able to fight very many people off if they're breaking into my home. So I'm not old enough to have a weapon. I don't live in the state of Rhode Island. I can't register a weapon here. So I have basically no means of protecting myself inside my house as well. Like previously stated, I'm not from Rhode Island. I live in New York. I have no way of commuting here if I was not able to get off-campus housing. So that is also a concern, because if I can't live in the town of Narragansett, I'm gonna have to live elsewhere, which is pushing my commute 30, 40 minutes. I take an 8 a.m. class every single day. So yes, everybody gets up early. I understand that thought, so be it, but let's try to keep an open mind to that as well. So URI's one of the biggest draws for me was being close to the Narragansett beach, being close to the coast, and that's a big draw for URI. That's what brings students in, and we are being pushed out based on a 3-person ordinance, which, as we've seen, has not stopped the partying and the things that are why we're having this ordinance, which I totally understand the residents here would like to stop, and they have every right to want that. Nobody wants to listen to kids partying all night when you have a family. Totally understandable. So I'm also going to talk about the social media point also brought up. Social media is voluntary. We sign up to put our information on that. This is not coming across as a voluntary movement for me. So I would just like to point that out as well. And social media also does not ask for my address. I'll yield my time. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Please state your
Dennis-
full name and address. Thanks.
Dennis Lynch, 22 Central Street, Narragansett. Two arguments are sort of getting interwoven tonight, the topic of confidentiality of information and a point that a number of speakers made as it relates to Narragansett not wanting students. So I participated in all of the hearings and the discussions related to the 3-student, and my recollection is just about every resident who came up here said, we are not trying to get rid of students, we're not trying to ban students, we're not saying students are unwelcome. We are simply saying that we were reaching a tipping point. So we have thousands and we have more students living in Narragansett than are living on the Kingston campus. And that may have been okay 25 years ago or 30 years ago, but each year more and more properties were converted to rentals. So this is an attempt to try to slow down the growth. There's 15,000 people in Narragansett. So when you add 6,000, actually the number can go as high as 8,000 students in Narragansett. That puts a tremendous strain on the town, on the infrastructure, on the social fabric. Many, many students perform beautifully socially, very, very civil and calm, but it changes the neighborhoods. It makes things transitory. People change in and out year after year, and we've recognized that in terms of the damage it does to the fabric of the community and to the neighborhoods. So that's really the impetus that I heard all through the discussions around the 3-student. I think it's a separate argument that was brought up here tonight as it relates to confidentiality of information. You'll take that away and assess what's the best outcome for it. I'd also mention that I thought just almost all of the speakers up here done a tremendous job in being civil and engaging in appropriate, political discourse, and I think that's what's supposed to happen in these chambers. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, please state your full name and address.
My name is Karen Emma, and I'm at 30 DeSano Drive in Narragansett, and I don't want to waste my 3 minutes in support of what they're talking about or interrupt it. But the reason that I'm here tonight is part of these ordinances and that were put into place for zoning, and I completely understand for the renters and all of these different things. I've been a resident of Narragansett for 47 years. My parents have owned the house that I, have transitioned myself for 58 years in Narragansett. I am working desperately to move here full-time as a full-time resident. And things that have happened in these zonings with the new FAR, with the new size of, for example, what can be built on the size of the lots, what nobody took into consideration is, first and foremost, we were never notified. I realize it was in the Narragansett Times. My parents are 80 and 78 years old. They're not looking online, and I didn't even know it was there in the process of that. We were looking to try and move my whole family here, and I'm a person that has 3 sons that live with me, 2 even grown adults that stay with, one that's married who comes to stay with me, and trying to make my house so that we can live there full time. And because of these regulations, they never took into consideration our existing properties and my trying to even remodel to get here full-time, add value to the town of Narragansett, and to be a resident with tax dollars that could help with all of these concerns that everybody has. I understand the renters. Certainly, our street in Narragansett was primarily rental properties. For many of us, that's not the case anymore. So I very much look at what has been put into place, and I plead with you that you need to look at these regulations, because they're not just affecting the students. I understand people are worried about renting and what happens in the years to come, but you haven't looked at the demographics of this state or the United States. Parents are aging. My parents have lived here for 58 years of their life. They are 78 and 80, and we're trying to make sure that they can stay with me and my family without having to move somewhere else or out of the town. None of that has been taken into consideration when they put these regulations in place. So I know I've talked to Susan, I've talked to others, there's many people that are running into this problem as full-time residents, that we're not trying to build monstrosities on properties to rent out. We're trying to move here and be part of the community and make it better. And I would hope that that's something that the town of Narragansett, I know it's being looked at. I've been to the zoning board and my stuff went in January. Literally, I'm not being heard till October now because it was delayed again in September. These things need to be addressed because it is a risk to me. Financially, my other house is being sold, and certainly we need a place to live. So I would hope and beg you that you start to look at some of these things that are not just affecting those that are renting. We respect that. We've rented our house. If we can look at the residents too in those zoning codes, that would be terrific. So thank you for your time, and I know there's more of me out there, and I don't want to interrupt what's happening with the URI.
Thank you.
So thank you.
All right, in the back. Yep. Hi, please state your full name and address.
Sure, my name is Robert Patterson. I live at 8 Parkman Road. I don't want to get into the 3-person, 4-person. That's before the court. That was decided by this council. We need closure. Let the court process work. I want to put that aside. I am struck, though, I'm a father of 3 daughters. And it would make me uncomfortable knowing that my daughters' locations and addresses are being turned over unnecessarily, I think, to a database, the purpose of which is not clear to me. If the statutes to be enforced, it would be against the landlords, not the students. You certainly need the names of the landlords, and the landlords need to have the names of the lessees ready to go upon demand and upon inspection. But I don't even think they're standing for the town to bring an action against a tenant. I think it's against the landlord. So I don't really understand what the purpose of this database is. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I think a sign of strength is to change your mind upon reflection. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And as a father, this does give me a little bit of pause. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, Mr. Alba. Please state your full name and address.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett, Rhode Island. I attended the Galilee tour on Sunday hosted by Dan Costa of the RIDM. The tour was well done, but sadly no discussion was allowed on how to improve Galilee when much improvement is needed. I did send Dan an email prior to the tour, and I hoped he would respond back, but he did not. A summary of the letter is as follows. I hope, since you want what is best for Galilee, you can arrange a meeting where I can sit down with you, the town manager, town planner, Mr. Procasianti, Mr. Paolino, or representatives from the Friends of Galilee, URI professors and researchers such as Charles Carver and Will Greenberg, and anyone concerned about Galilee so that we can put together a viable solution for Galilee. Some suggestions are a boutique hotel, a maritime museum, an educational research center for maritime studies, including a biome center, community fishing, and also a dorm-style housing for college students, which, as we can see, is a much need. A multifunctional banquet, events room, and possibly a store for fishermen to pick up goods before they go out to sea, and consolidate a parking garage that will take a small footprint of the overall land. The Sailing Museum in Newport memorializes the sailing trades, traditions, and provides interactive activities. We can have a maritime museum, which will forever memorialize our commercial fishing. One of the reasons why the town's plan was rejected was due to funding concerns. Going forward, let's look at ways to obtain outside funding. The town can put forth RFPs for the general store, a boutique hotel, for lodging for fishermen, lodging for college students, and affordable housing. Funds can be obtained from the state and federal grants and from URI to alleviate housing for college students. State, federal, and university funding can be obtained for the Maritime Museum. We can obtain state funding for the parking garage, as was obtained for the Rhode Island Convention Center. Let us keep an eye on the $46 million allocated to Galilee and make sure the RIDM utilizes that money for the commercial fishermen. Let's ask the governor to increase the amount of funding for Galilee as he approved $60 million for a soccer stadium that our state will be supporting another multi-billionaire while the developer is leaving his prior soccer stadium investment in Arizona. How ironic. Dan McKee and other legislators supporting billionaire developers as the developer is now divorcing himself from his soccer stadium investment in Arizona. The developer says, build it and they will come. I will retort, well, what happened in Arizona with the soccer stadium you're leaving? May this town council not forever be remembered for saving a modern state library, but leaving us with street-level parking lots in Galilee. There will forever be a legacy of this town council for failing in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save for Galilee. We can all see that we need land in Narragansett. If we can utilize this land constructively, work with URI, work with the developers, work with the Graduate School of Oceanography, we can have a game plan which is going to better the entire state. Let's not give even the most negative supporters of the town's mixed-use development proposal any reason to criticize the mixed-use proposal.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please state your full name and address.
Stephen Ferrandi, 44 Sylvan Road, Narragansett. Thank you, council members. I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to, I want to talk about the 3 college student ordinance, and I appreciate Everett Desirensky, Jesse Pugh, and Deb Kopek for understanding that it's something the town needs and needed and did put in place. And they were the positive votes. Patrick Murray and Susan Cicilline voted against it, which we all know that. What this ordinance was going to do was bring a little balance back into the town. You know, we've had 3 students, in my neighborhood would be like 6 and 6 and 6 that have mini dormitories all over the town. So What's the next basic thing? Try to limit the number of students. If it limits those down to 3, that's hundreds of less cars and people in the neighborhood. And we're not taking away the landlord's right to rent property. It's just the greed that takes over. Nothing will change in it. Another thing, we're all getting a little out of hand with this, the students' names and all that. The rental registration for 15 or 20 years has been the lease has been supposedly to be posted on the back of the door. So it's already been going on, only thing the lease was posted. It's actually more secure at the time if the town takes that over. You follow me? The lease itself had that way. So that's, excuse me, am I able to speak? Have some decorum? Thank you. So that's my point. And, you know, the town's been trying to do this for a long time. We can't control our legal advice, the different solicitors. We've had council people that have said, cut off public hearing, you know. And every time it comes up to the same thing. The money interest on the other side, and their lawyers spend thousands and thousands of dollars to not change their way of life whatsoever. And it's impinging on all the full-time residents here. It is. We're not saying to get rid of all the rental. All we need is some balance. So please, for the rest of your term, stay the course. If there's any appeals to be done or anything like that, please, the rest of the councilmen, stay the course. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, in the back. Please state your full name and address.
Karen Leiner, 66 Saconnet Boulevard in Narragansett. I am here to speak to express my emphatic disapproval of the new rental registration form regarding tenants' names. To me, it is unnecessary, intrusive, and serves no practical or legitimate purpose. A signed and dated lease already hangs privately on the back of my door, which it has. I've been renting for 9 years. It has always been there. And that is for police and fire, first responders in the case of an emergency. This information on the registration form is supposedly being kept internal. However, that information may still be able to be accessed by others. The sole purpose of this information is to catch violators, but at the price of student-tenant safety and privacy. Truly, I feel it is just a fishing expedition by self-proclaimed ordinance police. At this point, I'm not convinced you all have these students' best interests at heart. I would hope if these were your children, you would be more concerned with their privacy and their safety. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Okay, in the back, their hand up. Yep. Please state your full name and address.
George Nonis, 60 Exeter Boulevard. Good evening. I'm also here to speak against the building inspector's requirement that student renters' names be listed on the new online rental registration form in order to be accepted. The current rental registration ordinance, section 14-5.19 under posting clearly states that the record owner or any person in control or possession of said rental dwelling unit subject to the provisions of this article shall cause a copy of the current lease and registration form required by this article to be posted or affixed to the inside of the primary access door to said rental dwelling unit so as to allow the lease and registration form to be readily available by inspection by police, zoning, building, and minimum housing official of the town of Narragansett. This information is not made public. It's only made available to the police and building inspector as the ordinance states, not the public. The building inspector has said that this ordinance isn't being followed. So then it's an enforcement issue that should be addressed by the building inspector, not develop another process because they're unable to enforce what's already on the books. There's no reason to require student names and addresses. They're already contained in a lease posted on the home. Is there a zoning ordinance violation? The homeowner gets cited, not the renters. This practice of requiring student names is not just an overreach by the department, it's a clear violation of privacy, discrimination, and a serious security concern, as we heard tonight. The town is not requiring the names of non-student renters nor summer renters. I ask, why not, if that's such a concern about renters? We've already seen a resident with ties to the town council candidate videotaping students without their knowledge and posting it on social media. We've seen residents driving through neighborhoods in the early morning hours, counting cars at houses, and submitting written complaints to the building inspector about possible ordinance violations. Given that these actions are already occurring, the posting of student renter names will result in targeting, harassment, and stalking. These are 19 and 20-year-old adults that you're talking about. Their safety should be a major concern to you. I'm sure this type of neighborhood spying on neighbor isn't what you want Narragansett to become. These actions encourage it, unfortunately. If you had a student attending college, I know you wouldn't want his or her name and address being made public. Safety should be first. I fear an unfortunate incident will occur, and that responsibility clearly rests with this council. I have no confidence in the building inspector's assurance that names won't be made public. If they turn out to be public, the damage will be done. There's no turning back. The question is, why do they need the names of 6,000 students? It certainly is not to build a database, since they are not requiring rental names of non-students or summer people. So I ask you to change the name listing requirement on this rental registration form immediately. Stop the possibility of harassment, targeting, and stalking. Believe it or not, students have rights of privacy as well. Thank you.
Anybody else? Please state your full name and address.
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. I'm switching gears totally. So I'm going to just say I think it was a wonderful presentation that Lori Kelly did for the library, the amount of funds that have come in through OLIS, through donors. I think we should be very, very happy that people are stepping up to the plate. But I do want to kind of express an opinion, which letters to the editor should be considered opinion. And just because someone writes in, and it's not just one person, and mentions a whole bunch of numbers as if they were an accountant and they know everything, I don't know how they have access to some of these financial documents, but that is not a vetted article. So if a paper publishes it, the publisher has an obligation to check the details that they are publishing. So if they say there's a budget floor or a budget surplus, you can have some confidence in it. But I think that as residents, we need to take the letters to the editor as an opinion. I mean, I've written letters, but I don't include data I'm just giving my feelings and what I feel. And I'm expressing it, and I think that's what we need to remember, especially with, it seems to be, the library. The library seems to be a target. There are people who still don't accept it, and I don't understand, because I think we all need to remember that a library is probably the only thing in a community that is totally accessible to all residents of all ages. You might have a sports field, and that's available to some people, or pickleball courts, or, I don't know, the beach, and not everyone uses those facilities or are capable of using it. But everyone from toddlers on up to wherever can access the library and get a benefit of it. So we should become more like some other communities, and we should celebrate our library and try to promote its greatness and make it reflect what we want Narragansett to be. Rhode Island Monthly just had an article in, and it had all these wonderful programs, West Warwick, Cumberland. They had a whale exhibition. We couldn't fit that in our library. It's a physical impossibility. So I just want to say, try to support the library, even if you don't think you're ever going to use it, you hate it. Let's try to be more positive, and let's, donations, donate, help us out. So thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Really? Seriously.
Please state your full name and address.
John Hanley, 10 Wilderness Drive, Narragansett. A couple of things. I think this confidentiality argument, I think, is well taken and is resounding and my belief is there'll be some reconsideration of that. However, the three-student ordinance, I guess I wasn't shocked this morning, but I listened in on the call, and apparently the out-of-town landowners have won again, and it's just too bad. It's sad for the town. Second thing I'd like to say, and apparently I'm one of the elderly people that don't want students. That's not true. I know most of the students in my neighborhood last year, I knew. This year, I walk around the block every day with my dog. I don't peek in people's windows, but you do know cars that are there. And my unscientific assessment today is that approximately 50% of the landowners complied with the ordinance in my neighborhood for those that used to rent to 4, 5, 6 people. The other 50% completely ignored it. So they broke the law, and there should be consequences for that. And I understand the stay by the judge, even though I don't agree with it. The third thing is, that I don't really understand, is this student neighborhood, old people thing is going on, as far back as I can remember, and that's a long time. But it seems that the town, over time, had ordinances that were rejected, that weren't enforced, that they withdrew because of court challenges. Then we had the foreign-related ordinance, but we're not going to put that into effect until the three-student ordinance, which is up in Providence, gets adjudicated on. That was passed. We were assured this is airtight, we're going to do it. The council voted for it. Bingo, there's a challenge. Well, the council, the town, not necessarily you, didn't follow the proper protocol because they cut off the town public hearing. Start the whole thing again. Is today the same thing? We're going to have to start all over again because of not paying attention to dotting I's and crossing T's? We should be better than that by now. It's like 30 years this has been going on. And the final thing I'll say is with the election coming up, I remember who voted for the three-student ordinance, and I encourage the town, the people that live here, to remember who voted for it and for those candidates who are pro the three-student ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, please state your full name and address.
My name is Patricia Cole, 20 Bayberry Road in Narragansett. This is a great day for library lovers in our town. I'm so happy that this day has arrived. Thank you, Lori, for that wonderful presentation, especially the way you showed us how the finances work and how the money will be dispersed. I appreciated that very much. All of the people who worked so very hard in this over so many years, they never gave up. They were always optimistic about this finally going to happen, and they were right. And lastly, I really want to commend you, Council, because you have taken your responsibility as elected officials very seriously, and that means that you listen to the will of the people, and you follow the will of the people, and I know everyone should appreciate that, but for me especially, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Stanley. Please state your full name and address.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. Liberty and justice for all, equality. You promise that at every meeting, equality. We're talking about beach rentals. We're talking about beach rentals. So you say now we have to have the names of the people renting the students. We have to have the students' name, but we don't have to have the names for the summer rentals. Why do we have to have the names for the students? Why? It sounds like a discrimination, like one of the gals said. It sounds like if you want some data, normally you're normally going to discriminate in some fashion. There's a plan, or will be a plan, to discriminate because you have the list. Again, the list. You'll have a list, and we can discriminate against so-called the students. And it's not the student, it's the beach rentals. And what you should be doing, and what I want to do, thank every one of you students for providing us beach rentals. We have the beach rentals for family, friends, and others because of the students. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the beach rentals. Not as many, that's for sure. Couldn't afford that. But it's pretty much, if you're going to get a list, okay, let's have a list. If we need a list, what you really do is need a list of those people who are drunk and disorderly. If they get charged, if they violated the law, I want a list of all the drunk and disorderly. I want a list of DUIs. I want a list of any noise violations. The sticker, the orange sticker. That's the list. Put them on a list. They violated the law. They broke the law. Put them on a list. So therefore, we might be able to discriminate and not have these law violators in our town. I won't rent to them if I see that list. Praise the students for being here. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Please state your full name and address.
Carl Marchand, 76 Lambert Street. I just want to clear up something. It's a little bit of a misperception going on tonight. There's nothing secure about that database. A Freedom of Information Act will open that up and give it to anybody who requests it. So there's nothing secure about it. There were many people who have commented about the concern of them being in a database. It's not secure. And the other thing is, this brings nothing to the table. There's an ordinance that says you got to have your contract posted inside the door. I don't know what the compliance is, and I don't think anybody does. Mine's there. But this database does nothing except put a collection of people's names in there that's there for no reason. It brings nothing to you, the police department, or anybody. If the police show up at a house, I'm sure they have no problem getting the names of the people in that house. So this is like bad effort. And apparently it's not rolling out too smoothly because apparently you have to perjure yourself, from what I've been told, if you have more than 3 people on your lease this year, because the system can't handle it properly. And you have to sign an affidavit saying you filled it out correctly. I haven't done it yet. I have 4 people in my house because I have a contract that was signed before the ordinance. And if I have to perjure myself, that's not going to happen. I might have it wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to add just one response to the last commenter before I forget. So any APRA request, which is a request for public records, would be released redacted. So the town's able to do that. So any names on those registrations would be redacted, so blacked out. So those would not be included in the request. So I just want to be clear on that. Okay, anybody else? Yep, Mr. Hames.
Going to swear me in? No. Okay, Wynn Hames, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett. I wasn't here July 17th when this was passed, or I would have spoke against it at that time. I am going to agree with Bob Patterson. He has daughters. He would never, ever allow his daughters to put their name on any type of list. I have granddaughters. I have grandsons. I don't worry so much about my grandsons. They can take care of themselves. But my granddaughters, you don't want to see a list, and you can say that it's like, that it's not accessible. But there's been a lot of things hacked in this world, and I don't believe the Narragansett computer system is the most secure system in the world. So if somebody wants to hack that, they get that, okay, maybe nothing will happen, but if something does happen, every one of you are going to have to look in the mirror for a long, long time, okay? And you got to realize that. You're putting people potentially in danger. Okay? So just realize that, please. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Kevin McKenna. As you all know, I'm in favor of the three-student rent, like restricting the number of students renting in a house. I am for the three-student ordinance. That said, I must admit, and I'm fairly familiar with databases, I kind of agree with this idea. I would be worried about this idea of confidentiality. We can say a database is secure. There's no such thing as any database being secure, totally secure. As a modest proposal, and once again, I am in favor of limiting the number of college students to three. I would recommend eliminating that field in the database, listing the students' names. It's not needed, because in fact, if those names are filled out on a lease, which is a hard copy, which cannot be stolen or absconded by anybody, then we're all set. That's all the police really need. We could actually add a field in the database that would only be a check field that would signify that the rental agent has shown the lease, there's 3 college students or 4 or whatever the number is supposed to be, it's on there. And then we get away from this whole problem of confidentiality and people getting into the database. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? All right, doesn't look like it. So that would conclude our open forum. We did have quite a few people here. I think it's good to see a turnout when people feel passionately about something. We like to see them come out and speak on it. Before we move on, I just wanted to see if there was any comments from anyone on the council, just in response or generally on this topic. Did anyone want to speak before we move on?
Yeah, I'd like to say a couple things. I did not support the 3-student. As the guy predicted, investors started going after 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom homes and making a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom and then now loading them with students. So I was supportive of the 4-bedroom student and 4-bedroom unrelated policy. As far as names of leaseholders, I've been against that. Initially, they were talking about Social Security numbers, and we killed that. So I think the lease at the door is a proper venue for this situation, and I hope we can get this discussion with the powers that be and get this turned around. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Anything?
So I just had a couple questions for, well, I had one question for James. So is there any legal issues with having the names on there? I know we had discussed this at a previous meeting. I don't know if that's come up, but that was number one question that I had, listening to all the comments and the concern.
No, I don't think there's any real legal issue with the database in general. I don't think it's prohibited. If you vote, if you're 18, your address is readily available. I do think that if there's a database that the town can redact those names, and that I hope would be upheld by the Attorney General if challenged. So that's hopefully some solace to the students if that happens. But if you're 18, you're an adult and subject to aspects of life that come at you when you go to college and things like that. And this happens to be that situation now. What happens in the future with the case, it depends, but that's where we are now.
Okay, another question I actually had for Wayne. So this is for the enforcement piece of the 3-student ordinance, and that was defined like just having the information in our own database for the town, not public. And I know that there's other college towns all over the United States that do have limits to the number of students living in houses. It's very common. I know when we were discussing the 3-student ordinance, I did a lot of the research on that, and I was surprised that it was so commonplace, and some of the limits are, the common ones were 2 students, 3 students. So that was very in line with what we were trying to do. And again, it's not that we don't like students here. I'm a former URI student, a grad, and it was about balance, like some of the speakers have said. And that's what the discussions were when we were discussing the 3-student ordinance. So we put it forth, and this is the enforcement piece. So Wayne, I was just curious if you've kind of took this as getting the names of the students from other municipalities or college towns that have been doing this to enforce.
Yeah, during the research of other ordinances, that was a field that was provided in many of them. And for enforcement purposes, rather than knocking on the doors of those individual units, when we do get a complaint, we have the database to look at who is actually renting it to make sure that they're in conformance with the 3-student ordinance. We're having situations where landlords are instructing the students not to answer the door because they know in fact that they're renting to more than 3, so we have no way of seeing the leases in the house. So this was a way in which to provide that information for us so we can enforce the complaints that we're getting.
Okay, and originally it did, I think it did have the social security number, and we had taken that out, correct?
Yeah, we never
We
had-
never did, right. Okay,
discussed
that's
that.
right. So that was never there.
Nor-
That's right.
Yeah, nor addresses of the students.
Right, it was just the names, so it's just the names. It wasn't, so the form would just request the names of the students so that we can have the number of students on there for the enforcement piece.
Yes.
Correct, okay. All right, that's what I thought. Thank you. That was it.
Wayne, I got a question here while you're up here. Is it just students or anybody who leases a home in Narragansett?
Currently, it's just students.
Okay, now, James, isn't that a violation of equal protection under the law, under the 14th Amendment?
Well, the 3-student ordinance is directed towards students.
Right, but
And-
we have a for unrelated policy.
Right, I think that there probably should be.
Shouldn't that form also go with for unrelated?
I think
Theoretically?
I don't want to
Well,
undercut Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, the foreign related typically comes into play for summer rentals, and there's no way on a weekly basis for us to keep track of for unrelated for every week of the summer for all of the rentals. And we typically don't have as many complaints for foreign related as we do for the college students.
But the thing is, if you provide one ordinance for one renter, whether they're a student or a non-student, and you don't apply it to another renter, whether it be a year-round or a short-term renter, I think you're in violation of the 14th Amendment. I may be wrong, I'm not an attorney, but
If we had a complaint on more than 4 unrelated, we would certainly look into it. But to keep track of that in the database is pretty difficult.
well, it's impossible to do the summer rentals.
Yeah.
You know, but for the year-round leases is what I'm, more talking about.
Most of them are families,
Sure, oh, I
they're
understand.
not a lot of
I
foreign
understand.
related, yeah.
But I just don't see how it's fair to have a year-round renter, thank you, get a free pass when a student renter who's here 9 months would have to post their names. Again, that's a legal question that we may have to look into. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one more thing, Wayne, so I was going to ask, Chief, but, so the fire and police do have access to the town database if they were responding?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's the part, so, okay. That was, and then my last question is going to be for Dan, but I'll ask Jim because he's busy filming. We've actually had upgrades in our cybersecurity. That was some of the funding that we did to make sure that, and there were some enhancements, correct?
Yes, that's correct, and they've upped their training too, that the staff from IT has been newly taught some other ways to make it more secure.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Wayne, I just want to say one thing. You've been here a couple of years. I know you got an impossible job, and I want to want to thank you for your efforts.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we're good with questions.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Wayne.
you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you. All right. I'll just make a couple statements as well. I know everybody came out, and when you speak in open forum, sometimes you can feel like you're kind of speaking to yourself because you're not getting any response, or at least understanding on where we're coming from, even if we disagree. And I think that I would probably feel the same way that the students do when I was in school. I think I would have felt exactly the same way that you do. But let me at least state what I think the intent is here, why we have those fields on there. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that database cannot be hacked. We know that any database could be hacked, no matter how small or how large the organization is. I think we know that. However, URI has a database with all their students' names and addresses. So that could be hacked. When you go to the doctor, you put in your name and address when you fill out your little form. Same with the dentist. If you do a job application, you're putting that information there. If you rent an Airbnb, in certain towns, you have to actually provide your address and then show your ID to an official before you can rent that apartment or that house. The schools in town here have records of all of our kids' names and addresses. That could get hacked. This information is in databases across the cloud. Any of these databases can be hacked. And like James said, as soon as you register to vote when you're 18, you're then in a database that's on the internet. You can put any home address in right now and find out who lives there if they're registered to vote. So what we're discussing here is something that is already out there. What we're saying is that we're not going to put it out there. There is that small potential. We can't guarantee it, that it doesn't get out there, but we would never willingly put it out. We had a gentleman come up and ask how this helps with enforcement, that maybe there was no reason to have it or no need to have it. Wayne spoke on the idea that if we have those names here in the office, we know before we go out to look at a complaint exactly who should be there. Those leases are not always on the inside of the door. We know that through the years. And this isn't about police and fire going when there's a party. This is about when we get a complaint and we send the building inspector, not the police department, to make sure that what's been entered in the database is who is actually living there. The second part of it is that previously landlords would register their rental, because registrations of rentals has been a thing for a long time, and they would just skip over the part about how many students were in a house. They would just submit it, not include that information. So then, if they violate the ordinance, they can say, I didn't know. I didn't even know there was an ordinance. I never even filled that out. So now they're forced to fill it out, because when you fill it out, you have 3 fields that are required. So that's another part of the reason why. If there's a way to achieve that same level of compliance and requirement, we can discuss that. I don't know if there is, but if there is a way to ensure that what information is being entered is being sworn to and is accurate, then maybe we can move that way. But as of now, I'm not aware of that. Let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to state. I think that's pretty much it. But my real point is that there are 2 issues here. One's the ordinance and one's the registration. I understand the opposition to the ordinance. That's been a debate for a long time here. I do think the registration part of this is nothing out of the ordinary. That's what I think. We could disagree, because I think that information is out there, and what we're saying is that we're not going to put it out there. But again, I appreciate everyone coming out and speaking on it, and we may have further discussion down the road on this. So thank you. All right, good. Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Do we have any items on consent that any members would like to remove? Actually, you know what we should do is let's take a quick recess.
Yeah.
We'll let people leave if they're interested, and we'll continue in 5 minutes. All right, ready to go? All right, Dan, are we good? All right, I'm going to recall us to order, and we will go right to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to, are there any items on consent that any members would like to remove? No. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 7, under Public Works, is a motion to approve the preparation and application of Pentec floor coating on the Public Works shop floors to be completed by DeStefano Brothers Construction Incorporated in the amount of $78,562.64. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I got a question on that.
Is it for
Steve.
Steve?
Yeah. One bid, right? Was there an RFP on that?
No, it's sole source. We reached out to other contractors in the area for this product to protect the floors. It's an epoxy. You have to use the right material, or the gas and oil will break it down.
Right.
So we actually got a sole source letter, and purchasing manager confirmed that it's sole source.
That's a Pentex product, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest part of the work is the prep work.
I was just going to say that, the cleaning.
Yeah.
Are they going to steam it?
They're going to steam it, or they might do media blasting, I'm not sure.
All right.
They're going to know more when they get started.
Yeah, that's a process. All right.
Right, but that's the biggest cost.
Steve, what color are we talking here? This is the important stuff.
It's a mild color. We're not getting
Gray?
We're not getting fancy. It's a gray or
Okay.
blue.
I think gray is the new beige, so I think you're going in the right direction there.
But yeah, it's long overdue. And it was in the budget too.
Yeah, all right. Good. It'll
Any other
protect that
questions?
concrete for years.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. If possible, we do have someone in the crowd here that will be speaking on an item. I was wondering if we can
14.
move up number 14.
I'll make a motion to move 14 up to the front.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. So we're going to do number 14 under.
We needed a second, I think.
No, we got a second, right?
What?
I did.
Have a second. Okay.
Do we have a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute an electricity supply agreement pursuant to the town's Community Choice Aggregation, CCA, program plan in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 39.3.1.2, following a review by the town solicitor? Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Jamie Rhodes, welcome back.
Thank you very much. As always, my trips to Narragansett leave me with a full civics lesson in all forms, and I appreciate the education.
Were you here for the 3-student ordinance?
I missed the 3-student ordinance, but I did get the Narragansett tribe. And
Oh, the beach access. Yeah, right.
I've learned a lot.
No one's
and I
luckier
wanna
than
thank
you,
for that.
Jamie.
All right, well, welcome.
Well, I'm excited to give this. I have some, what I feel is some exciting news, and I hope you all follow suit on this. So I'm going to go through a couple slides here to describe about how we put together, but just so you know that we've got the Public Utilities Commission approval for the aggregation program roughly a month ago. And there's an opportunity for Narragansett to join the other communities that are doing the aggregation program. So I wanted to come here with all speed that I could and bring that opportunity to you all. So, okay, sorry, I'm going too fast here. So just a quick note. I know I was here in the past talking about the increase in prices for electricity that's coming up. At that time, we had a prediction about where the rates were going to be come October, and those predictions were low. Turns out it was even higher than the highest
Do you have a
predicted
copy
rate that
of
we
that?
had. This? Yeah, you want it right here?
Yes. Can't read that.
It's hard to read.
Yeah, thank you.
I hear that, that's it.
19 cents. Unbelievable. I told you it was going to double. Yeah.
I'll give it this summary. Newsflash, prices are high. I've got I just sat through 2 days of hearings at the Public Utilities Commission over these rates, and there's a lot of answers, there's a lot of reasons why this is happening. I won't go through all the commentary about it, but let's just say that these rates are affecting everybody across the country. New England has its own special pieces of that. They're a little different. And then what we're also seeing is that the current, these rates are, I'm going to tell you right now, those last resort service rates, as high as they are, they're some of the best that you'll find in the region here in Rhode Island. I'm not here to say that 17.785 cents is easy to afford or cheap or in any way, shape, or form, but it's not the 22 cents that you're seeing in Massachusetts. It's not the 26 cents you're seeing in New Hampshire. I'm going to tell you right now, Rhode Island's got a pretty good deal when it comes to October, and I'm saying that in a bad situation. Even right here, right now are offers, the other offers that are available if you want to go out to the competitive market on your own. And here they are. So we've got 17,785, 19.9, 23.7, 24.9. Those are the other prices that you can get. There's just not a lot of other options available. So what we're excited about, though, is that we are able to bring a product to you to consider as a supply source for the aggregation program that will help us moderate these costs over the future, though there's not much that can be done for October, which is, well, it's right around the corner. So we're talking about how can we prepare for the time past October. So what we've been able to do is when the original communities that had aggregation programs had their approved, we opened a bid to interested suppliers to supply in those aggregation programs in about November of 2021. This was to see who's interested. Who wants to do this? We have to cultivate suppliers to come here. It's not like we put out an RFP and a bunch of people come in for it. We have to go to interested suppliers and market the value of coming and working with Rhode Island communities. There were also a number of policy issues that we had to address with the PUC before our programs could launch, and those weren't resolved until March of 2022. But what we're able to do in that meantime is take those initial RFP responses and workshop them. Go back to the suppliers and say, I think we need to work on this piece of it. We've got to work on this piece over here. These terms are not going to be acceptable, and go through that process of helping take that proposal and turn it into what we believe will be an effective program. We've been able to, in evaluation of the 2 bid results, there were 2 finalists that we brought. I would say, there were 3 proposals, and we called them 2 finalists. One, we didn't think it was a fully responsive bid, and so we disqualified them to begin with. So there were 2, and there's 2 different forms that it took. One is a single point in time procurement, which would be for electricity service, this moment, buying all the electricity needs for a period of years. So it's going to be dependent on what is the market now compared to about who else is in the market that we're comparing to. In this case, last resort service from National Grid. The other one is a product that's structured a lot more like last resort service, which is if you think of our electricity demand of it's this big, and say, let's just buy it in hedges. Let's buy it in tranches so that at no one point of market volatility are we subject to. We're able to buy in smaller amounts over time, which is exactly how our last resort service is built. Right now, when we have last resort service, it's procured over 6 different periods over the course of 18 months. And so we're proposing a product, or the second respondent proposed a product that would look just like that. It has true-ups so that the supplier, if the prices fluctuate, they're able to when the prices fluctuate over time, they're able to reset our price at this point, the proposal would be every year, and say if we under-collected this year, and then we'll add a little bit on the rate next year, and so we'll over-collect and we'll balance it out. So that at no point is the supplier on the hook for losses or gains, and the idea is that we pay for the prices, we pay for the electricity at cost. It's all passed through for it. So the municipalities that had approved programs approved also launch criteria for us to say if we were to agree to a supplier, what are the criteria that you can give us that would say this is an okay bid for us to accept? And those criteria are the same ones in the motion that's in front of you, which is primarily that the price at the time of launch will be lower than last resort service, and also that the solicitor has done a review of the contract to make sure that the contract itself reflects the purpose of the agreement. With the single point in time procurement, the supplier that was interested in offering that, we pursued because they were giving us a way to mitigate that price spike and come October. And when we got When we got to the final point of them actually taking the bid proposal and turning it into something executable, they confirmed that they would not be able to do so. They wouldn't be able to honor those prices that they were considering, and they determined that they would not be able to launch this fall. So at that moment, you say, well, you're out. If you're not actually willing to turn your bid into an executable agreement, you're out. So with that, we actually think that we landed with the supplier that is going to provide us a better product over time. It doesn't get us to negate that price spike that's coming this October, but it does give us a lot of tools in order to moderate future price volatility. So I didn't put the name of the supplier on here because when I sent this presentation in, the agreements with the other communities were not executed. They were all executed last Friday, so I'm no longer bound by confidentiality of that. And to say it's Next Era Energy Supply Services.
What's the name of it?
Next Era. Nextera.
Well, I don't like that name of that.
Are
we the next era?
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh. I missed the joke. They are one of the largest suppliers in the country. They service a fair number of both the individual market throughout New England. They serve one of the largest aggregations in New England, the Cape Light Compact, and they have done so for about 7 years at this point. We think that it's particularly well suited for the volatility that we have in our electricity markets right now. As we put down here, what it does is it manages risk, and the way for us to get competitive rates is constantly to manage risk. So the first one is that they do these procurements, they hedge over time, which means that at this moment prices are high, we're not locked in for long term. It also means that in the future, if prices are low, we're hedging our bets and saying we'll purchase a portion of our electricity now, but we're going to wait for a period of time before we purchase the next tranche in order to actually build up our prices. And with the forecasts, we forecast what we're going to need, and if we actually use more than we purchased, it trues up, it reconciles, just like Rhode Island Energy's product does with last resort service. As we said, it's been tested. They have been vetted. They have worked with aggregation programs in the region, and they've delivered a product that is regularly below Eversource's basic service rate in Massachusetts. It does so consistently because it takes its advantages at the market and exercises them at roughly the same time the utility does. Those advantages are primarily around minute timing, deviating from the utilities by a series of days. So when they bid, you don't bid on the same day because that's a lot of demand going into the market. And then also because we have much more stable demand needs. We know how much electricity they're buying when you purchase for a standard offer or last resort service. There's a lot more variability introduced, which is why prices rise for that. So at this point, there are 6 other Rhode Island communities that have signed with the supplier. So once again, those contracts were executed last week, and they're willing to offer the exact same terms to Narragansett. There is a time factor of this that we would have to agree with them. We'd have to finalize the agreement with them this week so that they would able to, they've already purchased half the electricity necessary for the other communities, and they would fold Narragansett into the second half procurement later this week if we would choose to move forward with them. So the request for authorization is specifically to empower staff to sign the ESA on behalf of the town. The proposal will provide that the default product is going to be lower than the last resort service at the time of launch. The expected time of launch of this program would be May 2023. Between now and May is when they would be doing the electricity procurements along a similar timeline as National Grid, Rhode Island Energy. And once again, the solicitor should review the agreement prior to executing. In anticipation of this, I've already circulated the proposed agreement with the solicitor and the planning staff, so they've had an opportunity to review it before we came to this meeting, and we'll be able to work through that process fairly quickly. And then finally, before we just go into any questions that you have, the timeline, should you choose to proceed at this time, would, once again, this month, we review and execute the ESA. Shortly after that execution, the supplier would begin purchasing the hedges. Those are the build-ups necessary to get a final actual rate. The last resort auction for the period that begins in May the period begins in April. In January is the last procurement for that. Following that procurement, the last resort service rate will be finalized by Rhode Island Energy. At that same time as when our rates would be finalized because we're on a similar procurement track. There are protections in the agreement to ensure that the rate will be lower than last resort service. If the procurements don't necessarily match up, the company that we're working with is willing to subsidize to make sure that we get that rate lower in order for us to launch. March is when the customer notification letters will go out. These have all the opt-out provisions necessary. It'll provide the price to compare. If you don't do anything, this is the aggregation cost, or the electricity supply cost in the aggregation. Here it is for Rhode Island Energy, so that everybody can easily compare the two rates and make an informed decision of whether they want to opt out of the program. With that, there's also the opt-out postcard that they can sign and send back. There'll be a web link, as well as a phone number for any way that they want to communicate with the supplier. And then finally, in May, the opt-out period will end in April. The individual customers will be enrolled at the end of April, so that in May, we would be customers of NextEra Energy for our electricity supply. And once again, we would be in the same boat as the other 6 communities that have already chosen this path to move forward. And there's one thing that I can imagine that you might be asking yourself, which is, well, if we don't go with this, what is our other option? And I'd say, well, the other option would be to take Narragansett on its own out to bid. We can do so. We have the data for the amount of electricity we need to purchase, and we can go back out to the market to see who would be interested in making this supply. And we can go through the RFP process, and the RFP review process, and then work with the interested suppliers to do so. I personally, this is my personal recommendation, I don't think that we're going to get a better deal than what NextEra is offering. And I also don't think that if we wait into the future, that there will be a fixed rate product that's going to be nearly as competitive with what NextEra is offering, and the amount of support that they're willing to provide and the amount of expertise they're willing to lend to us in both understanding and purchasing in the electricity supply market. So if we do choose to go out to an RFP, we may end up back in the same situation where NextEra is the best bidder that we have to work with, but we'll lose the opportunity to be working with our sister communities at the launch. And so with that, that's why we brought you the recommendation, is that the timing just happens to be that they executed now, and that we have an opportunity to go along with the work of the other communities and be buying in bulk with them. And with that, that is the end of the information I have, though I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Any questions for Mr. Rhodes while he's here?
I have several.
Yep, Deb?
Yes.
I just, sorry.
I was
just going to say,
You're
so,
first.
sorry. I just said, no questions. I know I have gotten a lot of, not a lot, but several residents, and I think it's come up here before too, where they call it a scam. So I just wanted to clarify to our, our residents that this is a regulated program. It's not like the programs back when, people were knocking on doors trying to do this, the energy, correct? Right, Jamie?
Right.
And so I think it's really important, especially, with the electricity rates going up and for our seniors, and, just being able to provide that savings. And as we know, this has been a long process. We started back in May of 2021 when we brought this up, so it's already in the 16-month mark. And we had set all the timelines and the goals, and we're kind of where we need to be. And this is kind of exciting for me to see it kind of getting closer. I was hoping we would have started sooner, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm really happy, and thank you for that presentation. And just to comment again about most private companies do this aggregation for electricity for savings. They do it on their own, but this is a program, and through the kind of going with our sister cities, it's more electricity, more congregation, probably more savings in the end. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Eva. Deb?
A couple of things. I just want to clarify. Thank you for that, Eva, making that point, because I think it's important. A lot of people don't quite understand, and that's something else I want to mention after I mention this. Can you just define for the folks in the room what last resort service is, please?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
So many acronyms, I
I know.
apologize. Last resort service is the current default electricity supply offered by Rhode Island Energy.
Okay.
So if you don't choose where your electricity comes from, you just turn on your light switch, you've got last resort service from Rhode Island Energy.
And you'll be paying that rate that you showed us on that?
Yes, unless, once again, the caveat is that the PUC just held 2 days of hearings on it.
And they may make a change.
They have to still approve it.
Can you, off the top of your head, can you tell us what the 6 communities are again that are
Yes.
part of this?
Providence, Central Falls, Barrington, South Kingstown, Portsmouth, and Newport.
Okay, so it's some very, our larger cities plus smaller communities as well that are part of this.
The expectation is about 20 to 25% of the population.
Okay, and I think if I heard correctly, you said that, depending on what happens after the PUC hearings, Rhode Island Energy is going to, no matter what, there's going to be a pretty significant increase in October in everybody's electric bill. So my question then is, after that, because it's still going to affect us no matter what at this point, when is the next time that Rhode Island Energy has the ability to increase prices again?
So the next rate change is the period that begins April 2023.
And by that time, we will have we would know what the difference would be in terms of this program.
Yes.
And then just to remind people, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I don't get this right, but the default is actually increasing the amount of renewable energy from the 10% that's required by the state of Rhode Island to 20%, is that correct?
Well, actually, slight change there. Right now,
Okay.
the state default is about 19%.
Oh, it is.
And so the default of this program would have 10% more renewable energy.
So it'd be 29%.
Although we'll be in next year, so it'll be closer to 30% because every
Okay.
year it
Oh,
rises.
it goes up, right?
Yeah. And,
Right.
and to be clear, that default supply rate that they've guaranteed to be lower than last resort service includes the additional renewable energy. So we
Right.
would have more renewable energy at a lower rate.
So that is the default, but customers can choose to stay with what Rhode Island Energy is doing, which would be the lower amount of renewable energy, right?
Yes, so there will be a lower renewable energy content option available through the aggregation program, or they can stay with Rhode Island Energy if that's their
And
preference.
there's still the option to actually make the decision to have greater amounts of renewable energy, correct?
Yes, and in the agreement that's been shared, there's also an agreement with the Green Energy Consumers Alliance,
Yeah.
who invest in renewable energy projects in New England, and their ability to source a portion of those additional renewable energy credits from projects just in Rhode Island.
Okay. The only other concern that I have, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the town and for the residents in the town. The only other concern I have is the way in which we roll this out to our residents, because I think people are, they don't, it's hard to understand. It's kind of complicated, and it's also very new and very different, and some people come slowly to new, and I understand how that would be. So one of the things that I would just like to really make sure of is in that March to April time frame that you have in the timeline, we're going to send out customer notification letters. I'm a little leery of that simply because I think some people might just toss them in the garbage. And I think that we need to do something a little bit more hands-on, and that's not something that I don't think that, well, you can help us with it, but I think we need to do something more hands-on so that we give people the opportunity to really see and talk to people about how this works. So that's just really, really important to me because I think it will not be successful if we don't do it that way. Otherwise, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. And just a quick response to that is that within the aggregation plan, we have the outline of what that outreach and education program looks like, including the mail, including community organizations working with their own newsletters and communicating to their constituency. And also between now and it's really going to begin in February, the outreach work.
Start, right.
That is a sketch. It is not our only plans, and we are more than happy to include new and additional ideas, whether it's outreach at the library, doing like we've done like bookmarks that everybody gets put in the book when they do it, going directly to like senior assisted living homes and having these conversations one-on-one. These are all services that we're happy to provide, and if there's anything not currently in the plan that we should have addressed, well, we will definitely be working with Mike and the planning department to add to it, and we're willing to use our resources to do most of the work.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just say that if I'm sitting up here at that time,
think we'll
I'm
have some
very
ideas.
happy to be involved, and even if I'm not sitting up here at that time, I would be very happy to be involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Susan, I just want to make sure we don't skip over you. Did you good? Okay. Patrick?
Okay, thanks for coming out. I know you got a tough salesman's job there. I've been in sales for a long time. Okay, next. ERA.
Next ERA.
Now that's spelled E-R-A, correct?
Yeah, next era, it's one
It's
word.
not ERROR. We're not making an error here, right?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I checked that on their application first to make
All
sure.
right, yeah, don't sign that one. Okay, how long is this rate good for, once it's,
So the way that it's going to be, it's a 5-year agreement, and the first 5 months is the first rate. And then we're on to the same schedule as utility, except that we will then set 1-year rates for the subsequent 4 and change years.
and what's the percentage of increase? That's an unknown, right?
Of what our prices will be?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
'cause we
over the
haven't-
5-year period.
Yeah, because we haven't actually purchased the electricity
Right,
for those
right.
periods. And we would be notifying everybody prior to any price change, just like Rhode Island
So you
Energy
can
does.
still opt out to go to a lower rate
Yes.
if that rate in year 3 is 10 cents higher, then you have an opportunity in April, right? It's every April, right? And October,
Yeah, so we'll do.
twice a year, right?
Actually, we're going to do just once a year.
Once a year, and that'd be in the spring.
We're going to do this first one come May, 5 months later, October, I got that right? And then every October after that.
Okay, all right.
And yes, to be clear, somebody can opt out in April, they can opt out in October, they can opt out the following, they can opt out whenever they want along that process.
Right, just once a year.
Oh, no, they can opt out anytime during the year.
Anytime, okay.
Anytime.
All right. The PUC has been going back and forth with Island Energy, and it's been reported in the news that the rates are going up 50%. Right now, we're paying about 9-10 cents.
7.8%.
Okay.
7.8 cents.
So if it goes up 50%, wouldn't that put us at about 12 cents? But now we're getting out of the gate starting at almost 18 cents.
Yes, their rate come October is about 18 cents that they're
Doesn't that,
proposing.
I mean, that's a little different story from what we heard back in July, and I understand why, because the federal government has put a wet blanket on domestic oil drilling. Do you think that's the reason why these rates are going up so quickly? As a professional.
I mean, once again, I sat through a lot of testimony at the PUC about what the analysts from Rhode Island Energy and the Office of Energy Resources and the division said about why the rates are going up. The answer that I'm gonna go in the weeds here because you invited me into it.
Sure, I'm waiting for it.
The reason why what I found to be the most compelling reason is that natural gas power plants only buy their gas the day before they need it, because they have no incentive to have long-term contracts. If they had long-term contracts, then they're more likely to increase the fossil fuel infrastructure because they know it's needed. They only buy on the spot market because it allows them to have the lowest prices, which means that we don't have enough natural gas infrastructure to provide electricity and heating through natural gas in the winter.
Because we're not producing electricity, not producing a natural gas.
Well, it's because of how we buy the natural gas. There's enough there, except for now when we're competing in prices with Europe, which are paying prices much higher than us for our exports.
All right, next era.
Yeah.
How do they produce their electricity?
They actually purchase it from the actual producers.
Okay, now, are they gas plants? Are they hydro? I mean, I know there's a percentage formula for renewable.
Yeah.
Okay, so do they stick with that, or does it stray to a higher percentage of renewable based on what's available?
I'm going to actually answer, there's 2 questions in there, whether you knew it. There's actually the purchasing of the electricity that's delivered, and there's the purchase of the renewable energy credits.
Right.
So they're 2 separate transactions. What they purchase from, for where the actual electricity comes from, is the lowest prices when they hedge. And so I won't go into the full bidding process they have. I'm going to keep that confidential on their behalf.
Understood.
But the answer is they get a series of quotes on the days that they're hedging, and they choose the lowest quote, regardless of where the source is.
Okay.
But then what we do is when there's a mandate for us to have 29% renewable electricity, they then buy renewable energy credits from the facilities that generate them.
Right.
And they generate them by putting electricity on the grid here. So there's 2 transactions that are encompassed in setting our electricity rate.
Okay, let's stick to renewables here. Now, since in July, the governor signed renewable energy 100% by 2033. Now, how is that going to affect this contract over the next 5 years?
So over the next 5 years?
You have to stick with that percentage rate each year of a renewable.
Yes.
Above and beyond what is starting out of the gate of 19%.
correct?
Yes, but we're not going to go up over 100%. So within the 5
Well, I don't
years,
think anybody can go over 100%.
well, that's an interesting question. You can buy more RECs than you use. Whether you want to or not is a different question, but it can be done. I could give you the theory behind it. It's like if I buy more renewable energy credits than I need, everybody else has to pay more for the rest of them, and that increases the value of the renewable energy credits to the developers of renewable energy products. That being said, I'm not necessarily out there just to spend money to create money for someone else. So our 10% additional for the default will continue to go up as our RES goes up, but then it'll stop at 100%.
And this is a state mandate signed by the General Assembly to be
100%
100%
renewable.
electric renewable by 2033, correct?
And that is correct. And our plan with
Hope
the
everybody's listening to that. At the same time, you gotta get rid of your oil burner and your gas burner. Hope you pay attention to this. Okay, hang on, I got a couple more questions here. The green new steel. All right, it's good. Okay. So, this rate of approximately 17 plus cents, that's going to be effective in April.
October 1 this year.
October 2020, October this year.
October of this year.
Okay, all right. Okay, when it was stated that, okay, all right, so it looks like the bill is going to be higher than the 50%, which was been reported in the local news, correct?
That's
a given, right?
Yes, assuming at the 50%, yes.
Probably closer to more 75 towards 100.
From the almost 8 cents to, the 17 and 8, it's
almost double.
It's almost double for, and that's the supply. It doesn't change the distribution
That's
cost.
what I've been squawking all year, so I'm glad that I predicted that one. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, just one question from me.
Of course.
I just want to make sure I totally understand. If we go with this program, the default package that residents would start with would be 10% higher than what Rhode Island Energy provides in terms of, renewables.
For term renewables, yes.
Right, and that would be, so you'd get that as the default at a lower cost guaranteed.
Yes.
And then if the customer wanted to downgrade the amount of renewables, it would then be another step down in terms of cost.
That's correct.
Right? So you could, if you didn't care about renewable as a customer, you could go a couple steps down in terms of price.
Yes.
Right. Okay. But by default, you're already lower.
Yes.
Okay. That's it. I'll ask you that 10 times.
I'll say it again too. Yes, we have a guarantee that at launch we will be less than last resort service.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I got one more quick question. The renewable push across New England and across the country and stuff, I mean, isn't it going to get to a point where, I mean, I know it's not going to happen overnight, but you won't be able to buy electricity from a gas plant or well, I think coal's pretty much dead, right? Or nuclear. You can't, I mean.
You're asking me to shake up the crystal ball, look a little bit into the future.
Well, this is your business.
And you know what? I think you're right. Yeah. I think within my lifetime, we will not have electricity from any
So
other
it's
sources.
lights out.
Or it's lights out.
Like Texas,
If it
2
doesn't
years
work.
ago, like Texas, and they had a freeze and everything stopped.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Remember this moment, folks.
All right, Jamie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and go to the public. Anyone in the audience interested in speaking on this item? Dr. Alba? Al, please state your full name and address.
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I'd like to ask you if the governor or the legislators come up with a creative solution to help lower the anticipated increases. The governor already made a statement. We know it's election time. It's election season. Who knows? Just before election time, he might just say, well, because of the high prices, we're going to somehow relieve the burden. People are struggling to put food on the table, et cetera, and that will lower the cost. So if we go into your program and say this occurs, you did mention someone is allowed to just drop out anytime. Because one time I participated in this program and you're like locked in for like 6 months to a year. There was a specified time. But with your program, anyone could just drop out. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because if the legislators did pass this savings along, would you guys be able to do that adjustment, or would you be locked into that? Yes. Thank you.
Happy to answer his questions. I think it's interesting information, though it's not entirely connected to aggregation. But I will tell you the benefit is that there were 2 pots of money that were identified, one from the settlement of the Attorney General, in order to settle the case for PPL, to Rhode Island Energy to purchase National Grid, agreed to both a significant arrearage reduction. They would pay off people's unpaid debts, and that's happening in October, and that's regardless of where you get your supply from. They also just had a settlement to benefit ratepayers, and that is looking to be applied somewhere in the middle of the winter months for a 1, maybe 2-month bill credit. I think it's in the realm of $38 million. And then they've also identified about $3.8 million of RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative money, that instead of going to other project investment, they're going to redirect it to lower the bills of low-income customers directly. So overall together, that represents a significant millions of dollars investment into lowering these costs for ratepayers that are supposed to go into effect come October. So all of that's happening. It's regardless of whether the aggregation, all of these benefits are for all Rhode Island Energy customers, regardless of where they get their supply from.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jamie, it's my understanding that the General Assembly last year, in their wisdom, cut $7 million out of the heating assistance program to set it aside for future heat pumps for constituents. Have you heard anything about that?
I can't comment.
All right,
on that.
thank you. We're going to try to stick to this program specifically, not all things energy.
Well, it's gonna.
All right, yep, come on up. Hi, please state your full name and address.
Robert Shields, 37 Earls Court. I want to thank Patrick Murray for asking some very important questions. I think he shows he's been doing some work on it. I'm an engineer and I understand power generation from A to Z. So I think you got some good answers, but you also got some misinformation this evening. Let me start by talking about what good energy really is. It's really a limited partnership, not a corporation. So all it needs to do is file papers with the state in which it does business and the IRS and the State Division of Taxation for tax numbers. Then it's free to do what it wants. It's not subject to corporate inspections by the SEC or the State Department of Commerce here in this state. It does not need to reveal anything about its organization or the supervision of its policies. It doesn't even need to announce who its partners are. It does not need to announce where it's located, although it is located on Madison Avenue in Manhattan, New York. I think it's a fair guess that could be financed by a Wall Street hedge fund. I don't know where they'd get their money otherwise. I think they need to release the names of their principal partners so that we can identify who they are, what their experience is in this business, and whether they have the engineering expertise to carry them out. How will they make money? Who would pick up the pieces if they suddenly fail to pay their sources of electricity? That's something that corporations have to plan ahead and file with the SEC. This is not something that a limited partnership has to do. They may willingly do it, but they don't have to do it. And they certainly aren't going to obey all of the requirements of a corporation. So I think that's a worry for me. Now, I question the total need for this offer by a limited partnership, because the New England ISO already does what this gentleman is saying that they plan to do, but on a much smaller scale and with undoubtedly a much smaller staff. Now, the New England ISO is the independent systems operator, which is located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. They have a whole staff that constantly goes over the price of utility sources for energy and advocates a 3-year.
All right, Mr. Shields, we got to wrap it up.
Well, I think those are the two concerns that I have. And I could have gone on to describe what happened in Texas, which Patrick knows about. That's a case where they way overcharged for energy.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. All right. Is there anyone else? Stanley? Please state your full name and address.
Stanley, 1044 Boston Road. I asked it before, but I just want to confirm. So we can opt in and opt out anytime we want. So if they get wild, we can opt out. So every 30 days, we can just leave them. And then we can come back, right? Okay. So we have that choice. If there's a disaster, we can just opt out. One thing mentioned that our rates are higher because what happens in Europe, I don't think really should affect what we do. You know, why are our rates going up just because it's going up worldwide? I don't understand the influence that something happened in Europe and they're wild on energy because of Putin or whatever, why that should affect us, because we're not buying gas and bringing it over here. So I don't know why our rates are going up. I don't know what's driving our rates up. If you had the answer to that, it'd be good. But the idea of opting in and opting out, and that should be on a brochure. When there's a brochure on there, as soon as the price gets too high, we're out of here. You know, once they know that, then that might be an incentive for them to make sure they're in line here. You know, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep, in the back. You. Yeah, thanks. Please state your full name and address.
Yeah, Jerry McCarthy, 27 Sewell Road, Narragansett. I had an experience with a program like this a few years back, and I think you made a comment on that this one would be regulated. But anyway, and so therefore I'm speaking from the standpoint of somebody who participated in a program similar, I think it's similar to this. And initially, the rates were lower. So we got into it, and we were told we could opt out anytime we wanted. Well, it took me 90 days to get out of the program. I dealt with a so-called company. I don't know if it was a limited partnership or a corporation, but I couldn't get the name of the chief executive. I got letters from them with no signatures on them, just the name of the company. Anyway, so just a couple of points that I'd like to make. I think Councilwoman Kopech made a good point. I don't think the people in our community are sufficiently up to speed on what's being proposed here. Now, to me, that would not be a problem if we were starting out with the an option to opt in, but we're going to get a letter saying you're in, whether you understand this program or not. And I think that's something that you guys and gals need to think about as elected officials, because you're going to have to deal with that. I think also because of that, because people are not fully aware of what this program is all about, I would like to see the town wait and see what the experience is of the municipalities that have signed in for this program. I don't think any of them have I don't think there's any data yet. I don't think that the program is operating yet, but I think that's it sounds like it's easy enough to get into the program, so I would ask you to give some thought to that. Find out what the experience is here. And finally, we have a new town council coming in. I think this program has got such significant impact on the taxpayers here that the council not take any action and let the new council deal with this. So thank you for the opportunity to give those comments.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's go through the council one more time before we vote. Any last thoughts? We'll start with Councilor Bonanno.
No, I'm all set.
Eva?
No, just to reiterate, it's a regulated program. You know, it's the last resort services rate is usually it's going to be higher, so it's an opportunity to save money for residents. And we really did research this. It's been an ongoing process, and it's been every milestone's been public. And again, everybody has the choice to opt out, and there is a choice whether you stay in the program or not. So you're not having the choice, and that's all.
Thanks, Eva. Deb?
I'm good.
Good. Patrick?
Yeah, I just got a couple more questions for you. Okay, to be clear, you can opt in, opt out at any time
That's correct.
for the next 5 years.
That's correct.
Step in,
Step back out again.
but when the program starts, you're opted in.
You're up. If you are currently a last resort service customer, you
Right.
will be opted in.
And then you gotta opt out, okay. Now, how does the opting out work? Is it date sensitive? Like, say, you have to do it like within a period, like within the first part of the month, or?
Yeah, so there's a date that your meter is actually read by
Right.
Rhode Island Energy,
Right.
and they need the information 2 days before your individual meter is read, so they
Okay.
can process it at that reading.
Right, so you gotta.
Otherwise, it takes effect the following month.
Within 2 days of the reading of the meter.
That's right.
So it could be 10 days before they read the meter.
Yes,
How far back can you go?
up to
The last time
The
they
last
read the
meter reading.
meter?
Yeah.
The day after they read the meter? Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. Just want to make sure we get this. I say we didn't make a decision tonight. Is there time for the new council to get cranked up here? And actually, we're going to lose October, so I guess probably not.
If that's the choice, then we would have to take Narragansett out to bid separately. It would be not, you would lose the opportunity to
We're
work with the
missing
other
that
communities.
window. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think that, especially you, Patrick, you always talk about the open market and competition and how that is kind of breeds better pricing for the consumer. That's what we're doing here. Why would we stick with what has been done for so long, which is allowing a monopoly to set prices when we can actually shop around and help provide better pricing for our residents if they want it? If you don't want better pricing, opt out.
Right.
And if the pricing becomes not better, opt out. But the worst case scenario is from the onset, our residents will have lower cost electricity off the bat. If that changes, they could-
Even though the bill's gonna double come October.
it'll be lower than what they would have had. You have 6 other cities and towns in the state that are doing it. I think that means a lot in terms of the trust that they've put in good energy. This is not the same as some of those programs that go directly to the resident to have them switch, not the same thing. And then just the last point is the next council will actually be deciding this. This is just pushing the process forward, something that we need to do, but it's not set in stone until the bids come in and we go ahead with that. And that's going to be something that the next council does. So, go ahead, unless I'm misstating, that's what I was.
Yes, that is actually incorrect. So I
Okay.
do want to do this. No, this is actually, this would be a resolution for us to, in fact, execute the agreement and sign with NextEra as our supplier for the program. So at that point, we would be locked in with them. There are provisions in the agreement. Should the next council choose to terminate it, there are provisions in there to do it, but this would be signing with NextEra as our supplier for the program.
Okay, but that's before we get the bids.
What we're doing is saying, we're offering the opportunity to piggyback on the bid that was already done.
Okay.
As opposed to doing a separate bid.
But if the next council comes in and in January they say it's a totally different council, they don't like what they've been seeing, they could pull out of this contract.
Yes, there are exit provisions that are in the contract.
Is there a penalty?
If you do it immediately, there could be a penalty. If
What's the timetable on termination?
the timetable on termination, sorry, I don't have the agreement right in front of me.
Yep. Probably 3 months, 90 days.
Yeah, it depends. So the way it is tiered is that
Yeah.
it depends on how much electricity they've purchased for us.
Right.
So they've purchased a lot of electricity for the next rate,
hold it
then there's
for
a
the
big
whole period.
liability if we should exit the agreement. If they haven't purchased a lot of electricity for the next rate, then our liability is a lot smaller because they
So
don't
it's
have a lot of
variable.
money
It's
out.
a variable.
Yes.
All right.
That's it. Sorry, I want to be very
No,
clear
I appreciate it.
what the vote
Obviously, I
is,
didn't have
yeah.
the exact info, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've all kind of chimed in. Want to go ahead and take the vote? So this is a motion to adopt the resolution. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye, opposed.
Opposed? Okay, motion approved,
Yay.
4-1. All right, thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to go back to number 8 from the IT department, which is a motion to approve the renewal of the dark trace system for SHI International Corporation in the amount of $29,964. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so Dan, this would be a cybersecurity suite, is that right?
This is a internal network monitoring system, actually, part of cybersecurity.
Okay. This would not do anything related to our town website or any sort of external files, right?
It's all entirely internal. At the event somebody did breach our website, this is designed to detect that avenue of attack and mitigate it.
I'm sure there's a bunch of URI students right now working on it.
I'm sure.
So wait, so this would affect a website breach?
No.
Would
our
not,
website's
okay.
not hosted here, so it would not.
Right, okay, gotcha. Okay. Any questions for Dan while he's up?
Nope.
All right, thanks, Dan. Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Number 9 under HR is a motion to approve the town's contribution of 16% of building official Wayne Pimentel's base salary to a 457B retirement savings plan in lieu of his participation in the town pension system. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay. Jim, do you want to speak on this?
Yes. Wayne was hired as our building official approximately 2 years ago, 18 days before he turned 60. When they're 60, when they're hired by the town, they can opt out of the pension system. In this case, Wayne was unaware of that. We did need to bring him on board right away. We had been without a building official for a while. And as many of you know, that's a difficult position to fill because of the qualifications that are required now. And they're few and far between. And he's been doing a great job. What he's requested is a waiver from participating in it and to have the town contribute 16% to his 457. This has been done for 5 current and former non-union department heads in town. it would reduce the contribution currently, this current fiscal year, it would reduce the town's contribution to cover this by over $22,000. And I would recommend that his wish be granted. And the pension board did chime in on it, and they did authorize him to waive participation. And he hasn't done so yet. He was waiting for the vote of the council tonight.
Thank you, Jim. All right, any questions from the council?
Nope.
Okay, Richard? Please state your full name and address.
I'm Richard Van Gersh. I'm on the Town Finance Committee. A while ago, we had an issue where we had two library employees who wanted to get on our system, and I asked, I have no problem with them being employees, but I do have a problem with COLA. And I was told, well, we couldn't do it. It was too difficult. We couldn't find a plan for them. And this gives me an opportunity to speak out against what is destroying the town of Narragansett, and that is the killer COLA, the automatic 3%. Now, this treatment, as we see here, gets us out of this. And it is criminal that we have continued to let this 3% COLA go on, because this is killing the town and is nothing more than unjust enrichment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, any last discussion from the council? Okay, going to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 10, under the fire department, is a motion to approve the purchase of one Lucas 3 chest compression system for the fire department from Stryker Medical, formerly Physio Control Incorporated, in the amount of $15,950.45. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 11 is a motion to approve the hiring of one firefighter as a replacement due to a recent notification of retirement within the fire department. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 12, under Parks and Recreation, is a motion to approve the request from the Memorial Illusions Memorial Library for the 6th Annual Family Costume Walk Parade to be held on Saturday, October 22nd, 2022, at 11 p.m., rain date October 23rd, subject to approval of state and local regulations.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just be there in your costume.
That's right.
Do you wear a costume?
I do.
Do you?
She does.
Karen Shevchalowitz is normally
I'll
the
be
Statue of
showing up.
Liberty.
Pumpkin one.
I'm going to make that, and I'll be showing up as the state senator from District 36.
Oh, presumptuous. Okay, anyone from the public?
That's what I identify as.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 13 is a motion to approve the 3-year contract extension for beach food and beverage concession with Fire and Water Concessions Incorporated at their annual payment to the town of $135,001 under the same terms and conditions as the original contract. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Just wondering what the $1 for.
They had to beat another bid,
I
probably.
guess, yeah.
No, I don't know. Anyone? Nope. Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 14, we did. Number 15, under community development, is a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the cooperative agreement with RIDM and to solicit bids for construction of driveway improvements and coastal resiliency rehabilitation at the Middlebridge Conservation Site.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, let's see if there's any discussion on this. We'll start with Susan.
Nope.
You good? Okay, Eva?
Good.
Deb?
I'm fine.
Patrick?
Yeah, for the record, Jim, that was a grant. Wasn't there a grant floating around on that one?
Yep.
Right, I think so.
Yes, but there's a matching of 25%, it's 48,000.
Okay, good.
Right, and the grant was 140,000. Okay, anyone from the public interested in speaking on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved, 5-0. Number 16, under Town Clerk, is a motion to reappoint one individual to the Personnel Appeal Board. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, so just to be clear here, we typically would not be doing this reappointment because it's after the 2 terms.
Yeah.
However, there are no other applicants. And what we've typically done is we fill it because we don't want an empty seat. So does anyone want to make a nomination?
I guess we would nominate John Kennedy for the position. Not the
second.
John Kennedy, but this John Kennedy.
Right, yep.
That's my nomination.
Second from Eva. Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Number 17 from Engineering is a motion to provide a decision on the waiver request submitted to the Sewer Policy Committee relative to Plat R, Lot 146A, 154 Salter Ave.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Okay, so this was rejected. This was no vote from both members of the Sewer Committee. Do we have anyone from the public interested in speaking? All right, please state your full name and address.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Attorney Matthew Landry on behalf of the property owner applicant. Just to provide some context, we're seeking a waiver from the Sewer Policy Committee with respect to the property at 154 Saltaire Avenue. This issue arose when we submitted an application to planning for a 2-lot minor subdivision. Just a little bit of a background because it gets a little confusing with the sewer connections. My client's lot is lot 146A. There's an existing home on the property, and he's seeking to add 2 additional lots to his property. In 2018, about the same time the sewer policy went into effect, there was a subdivision of lots from lot 146, which is adjacent to my client's property. That was about a 1-acre sized lot and about of an L shape, and we did submit a site plan with our initial application. If it's helpful, the last page has some detail in regards to the subdivision that we're proposing. At the time the sewer policy went into effect, 3 sewer allocations were allotted to lot 146. When the subdivision took place by a prior owner, not my client, one of the original allocations stayed with the house on lot 146 that was already connected to sewer. That left 2 additional sewer connections that were allocated under the sewer policy. 1 additional sewer connection is provided to my client's house on lot 146A, which only allows 1 additional sewer connection for 1 of the 2 proposed new lots. So that leaves us with the request for a waiver for the 2nd lot that's being proposed. There is a sewer lateral that we can connect to for 1 of the lots that's being proposed. Sewer runs throughout that community. All the houses are on sewer. And septic is a bit challenging because it's a salt pond special management area. There are 25-foot setbacks from water lines. There's a drainage easement on the property. I have somebody from Principal Engineering that did the plans and can attest to that. We presented that to the sewer committee. So there's obviously an environmental benefit, which is one of the considerations under the sewer policy that this council may consider. It doesn't make a lot of sense to put 1 septic in for 1 additional lot when there's sewer available. There's certainly plenty of capacity. There's a number of restrictions here, and the 2 lots that are being proposed are by right lots. They're 10,000 square foot lots, very modest. They're going to be small homes. There's plenty of capacity. We're not seeking zoning relief or anything extensive in that regard. So we've considered a lot of the policy considerations here, and it seems as though at the time the original subdivision that created my client's lot, there should have been 4 allocations, or at least 3 to my client's lot, because those are the 3 lots that you're allowed by right under zoning to have. I can't explain why it didn't get allocated that way. I wasn't part of that process. I'm not aware of how that was allocated, but certainly there's a connection there, we can tie into it, and there's restrictions to putting a septic there, and there's certainly an environmental benefit to connecting directly to sewer as opposed to having septic, leach field, nitrogen-inducing systems, and so forth. So I just wanted to provide some context.
Okay, great, thank you. Why don't we go to Patrick and Eva first? Do you guys, either of you have anything you want to say on this one?
So it was a 1-1 vote. Like,
Sorry, what?
So it was one, I was a
1-1,
no.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
1-1, it wasn't 2-0.
Yeah, I was wrong on that, yeah.
So I always tend to agree with the staff. I kind of want to see, just existing homes getting sewer first, and just making sure that we follow the sewer policy. And this was going to be, it's a new vacant lot, so it would be a new build. And so that was where, my decision came from. And so that's pretty much consistent with what I've voted for before.
Okay, great. Patrick?
Okay, there's only two of us on the committee, so I was for it, she was against it, we canceled each other out. That's why we're here.
That's been happening a bit, yeah.
But I believe the staff was on board with this one, pretty sure. Weren't they? They weren't on board.
Eva just said she went with the staff.
Right, okay, all right. I get them all mixed up. Anyway, I have no problem with this because we have plenty of capacity down there. And if you look at the plat map, they're surrounded by sewers. I mean, it's like Custer's last stand over there with the sewers, okay? We got plenty of capacity. And part of our policy, updated, Susan, you remember, was environmental concerns. And it is close to the, territories that are ocean going there, the CMRC concerns. So I have no problem approving this. The laterals are there. Well, one lateral's there, and then they just need to install one other. So I'm good with this.
All right, thank you. Susan?
Not a volume issue.
I want to hear what the rest of the council has to say, because I'm kind of going back and forth in my head.
All right, Deb?
I think I have to go with what the engineering staff says, and so I would be against this.
Okay.
It's estimated we have enough capacity in the Scarborough Beach facility for 600 homes. There's not a place to put 100 homes, I don't think. It's basically a non-issue. And part of the policy, I know the staff was against it, but I think it's more. Anyway.
So, John, could you help us out here a little bit?
Yes, clarify.
I did read this pretty carefully, but I'm not a sewer expert, so. Your staff did not agree with allowing the extra sewer line, correct?
The staff memo just
I
said
know
there
it's
was no
here.
compelling
Right,
interest in the waiver, I believe.
right, that's what I think it said.
Yeah, there was nothing, there wasn't a public good per se. This is, it was just they could put two new houses up or subdivided into 2 lots instead of 3, and they wouldn't even be here. So
Right.
the issue was, and I agree, I don't know why the original assessments were cut that way. It just had to do with when the sewers went in, there were 3 lots, and they got 3 assessments that had been paid over time. So as Patrick mentioned, there is capacity at Scarborough Treatment Plant, so it's available there. And I didn't really take a position one way or the other because it's more a policy issue right here.
Right.
And
The lots are within.
Saying it's okay.
Yeah, I believe it's R10 and they're all 10, 11, 12. So as you mentioned, it's all.
Aspect of our sewer policy. Shouldn't this demand sewers at that location? Doesn't that kind of take precedent?
Well, it's, again, they're here because the sewer policy doesn't allow them to get the 3rd line.
Right.
They can put it up by zoning, but by sewer, they need to have the permission. So they would either need a septic to get approval for the subdivision because it needs to be a buildable lot, or they would have to have the waiver.
Yeah, no, it seems like you're fine.
Okay. Any other questions for John, or can he sit? Okay, thank you, John.
So just this, I have a question for Mike then. So if I understood what the attorney said, the 2 lots would be 10,000 square foot lots, so they would fall under the bulk zoning requirement, right?
That's right. I've reviewed the subdivision as it is, it's pending. I see no need for any forms of relief. All three of the lots that would be created would comply with zoning.
Okay. And that was the plan for these houses, right? I'm sorry. I said that was the plan for these two new houses, was to have them be aligned with the bulk zoning requirements?
Of course, yeah, in compliance with zoning and not requesting any additional relief.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so, are you good, Deb?
Yeah.
So these are standard lots that conform with the requirements. Buildable without relief. All the other houses in this development would be on sewer. I don't know why they're gonna build the house. Why would we want them to do it with septic? And we have capacity, but basically the way that this works when it goes through engineering, I think, is that you're basically saying there's no hardship, there's no public good reason. Then it goes to sewer policy, then to the council for more of our policy, not our policy, but the sewer policy is kind of very structured. If they don't hit those criteria, then it goes through the process. And that's what you were stating, right? Right. It doesn't mean it never should happen. It just means it doesn't hit that criteria, I think. So, but with the capacity issue, there isn't one in that station.
Is there any sort of law of unintended consequences here, though? That would be the only question I have. In other words, if we do this time, what happens the
They're
next
not precedent setting, these decisions.
They're not precedent setting.
Right.
You agree with that, John?
Yes, that's correct. This is, would be an individual case, and that's what the sewer policy is. They're all
Okay.
ruled on individual cases. As Eva mentioned, she voted with this for consistency, but,
Right.
She's got the opportunity to vote on the full
Right.
measure tonight again.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it's as I've said, there's capacity in the area, and all the other lots are already sewered, so it's.
Got it. Thank
It's
you.
just a matter of administrative.
Thank you for the dialogue, because now I know where I stand. I support it.
Why don't we go to the public? Mr. Alba,
Thank you.
please state your full name and address.
Yes, Dr. Al Alba. I want to thank Patrick for doing his due diligence on this. So Patrick, thank you. And what you stated was in agreement with the experts. They are complying with bulk zoning. There's enough capacity. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Let it be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor? Oh, sorry, we need to make a motion. Well, sorry, because the motion is to provide a decision, so now we need to make a motion whether to approve or deny.
Okay.
So does anyone want to make a motion
I
to
make a
approve
motion to approve this applicant's request for sewage.
I'll
the
second
waiver?
the
Right.
motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 4-1. All right. And then we have a motion to approve the recommendations of the Sewer Policy Committee relative to Plat M, Lot 109, OSHA Road undeveloped, and Plat M, Lot 115, Central Avenue undeveloped. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so motion by Susan, second by Patrick. Okay, so we have, this one's a little bit different. So this was 2 votes opposing, 2 no votes on this waiver, right? Do we want to bring?
Yeah,
You want to go ahead?
This
Okay.
one's a canard here. This one's, it's down there on Ocean Road, just when it turns. When you go into Breakwater Village, just right at that turn, there's a private line that was installed by a family, I don't know, 20 years ago. And I think there's like 7 houses on it now. It's a 2-inch line with a positive pressure that pushes it up to on carries, where it gets into the main system. So they have a lot, the same family has 2 lots that are further to the north of, just further to the north, and they're asking for hookup to those, for those 2 lots. Now, initially, the agreement was this family to have 6 designated access to the sewer line for 6 lots, and they went through that. And then in 2017, I forget the reason, but another lot was created, and we approved another one in 2017. So we're already one above what was the original agreement. It seems to me, if we're gonna start approving lots on a regular basis along that road, we'd be setting a real precedent where any lot that went past that was in front of that, private line could theoretically hook up. So if that's the case, then that line should be upgraded, for environmental concerns again. So I can't support that at this time. Maybe the town should think about maybe at some point taking over that line and introducing sewers from Breakwater Village up to Aunt Carrie's in some kind of future project. But 'cause we're pro sewers, we have capacity, but and that line could probably take it from an engineering standpoint. But I think we're setting a bad precedent by approving another one at this time.
Okay, Eva, anything to add? Okay, Susan
I agree with the subcommittee.
and Deb.
As do I.
Okay, anyone from the public? All right, we'll go ahead and take the vote. So this is a motion to approve.
The
So,
recommendations.
right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, this is a motion to approve.
To approve the recommendation.
Which is,
Oh, approve it, sorry, yes, you're right, approve the recommendation, sorry, that's kind of odd. Is there, okay,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Took me a while to figure that one out.
It's getting late.
Number 19, from the Town Council is a motion to appoint the current members of the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee to the newly approved Affordable Housing Trust Collaborative for their existing terms and dissolve the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
second.
All right, Susan, do you
So
want to?
this is just a cleanup, and I want to thank the solicitor and the clerk for kind of putting it all together. It's one group, the trust and the Affordable Housing Committee together, and so that's what this motion is tonight.
Clean
So
up
it's
in
all-
aisle 19?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you.
All right, any discussion or questions? Anyone from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Last item is number 20, is a motion to change the short-term rental workshop date. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, this one comes from Counselor Cicilline Bonanno as well.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, we were trying very desperately to schedule a meeting, and I did receive an email from a resident that said it was a Yom Kippur, which is a Jewish holiday, and so I just thought out of that group that there were people in the town that might want to come, so I just selected another date, just to make it so more people could come to the workshop. So I just threw out a date. I don't know how you guys feel about it, if you want to keep the date we have, or you want to go with the suggested date, but it's up to you.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, so thank you for being courteous to the Jewish community. The town goes by its official holiday schedule, and I know we've actually met on other holidays. I know we had a federal holiday that we met on, which was Juneteenth. So I know this is an important issue to our residents, so I know it was difficult to schedule the meeting and find a date that worked for us. And I did look up what Yom Kippur was. I'm not of the Jewish faith, so I had to look it up. And I know it starts at sunset on the 4th, which is the date that we're having the meeting. Our meeting's scheduled at 6. And I know sunset's 6:23 that day. And it goes till the next day in the evening. And so I just think that this meeting date worked well for us. Again, I think it's something that we should try to get done for this council. It's something that we've been talking about. It's something that we've been working on.
What time's the meeting?
It's at 6 p.m. We could move it to 5:30 if that was better for everyone. And I think it would give the opportunity for those that are observing to speak as well. So my recommendation is to keep the date.
Keep the date, change the time. Can anybody make it at 5?
5:30, 5, I can make it at 5.
Anybody do it 5? Do an hour earlier. Give time for that sun to set. It's gonna take, what, 2 hours?
Yeah, I mean, we could schedule it for 2 hours. I don't know when sunset is.
That's, what's October? 6:23. Okay.
Well, why don't we get some full discussion here?
6:23 apparently.
6:23.
So Susan, you already introduced the,
Again, responding to some residents, but I mean, I don't know.
Deb, do you have any thoughts?
Well, it's just that I think, 6:23 is when it starts, and depending on, how observant you are, you would be there before 6:23. You would be wherever you were going to be before 6:23 to begin the observation. And it doesn't end until sundown the following day. So I don't have a problem with changing the date.
I also think it sets a precedent if we start changing dates based on, not really following our schedule of holidays.
Can I make a point? I'm sorry for interrupting, but Yom Kippur is one of the most important days of observance in the Jewish calendar. It's as important as Christmas is.
Agreed.
And so I think we need to take that into consideration. I don't think we'd want to set a date
Move it up an
20
hour to
minutes
5.
before, Christmas Eve, and so I think this is important enough to change it.
Everybody make it at 5?
Well, so what happens if this is a 4-hour event? This is going to be a big deal. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people
Well, then I
commenting
guess the
about it.
person,
So what about making it Wednesday, the next day, and starting it after it ends? Doesn't it end at sunset the next day?
Sunset the next day, yeah.
I think I had asked Janet, and it's, this room is taken. There's the 6th available. I did check with Janet on that.
Right.
This room's taken on Wednesday?
Yes, this room is taken on Wednesday. Thursday is available, the 6th.
We'll do Thursday? So you don't lose I know that you had initially pushed
I'd
it
like
back
to get
from
it
your
done,
initial
but-
date.
Can we do it Thursday? Is it
Couple
possible?
days?
Yeah, that's fine.
Let me look at the date, Thursday the 6th.
Yeah, I'm fine with the 6th.
Would that work for you?
Mike
Ellen?
has his hand.
no, if Stanley shows up.
Oh,
we'll
Mike,
be
do you
there
have,
till sunset the next
Mike, come
day.
on up.
I'm not sure how much you need me at that workshop, if it is intended to just be a discussion among the 5 of you, but I'm out of town from noon on the 5th through the end of the week.
Okay, that's not good.
So I did put the 11th originally on the motion, which would work for everybody. I mean, you're not going to get anything done this term completed, right? For short-term rentals, I mean, next meeting is going to be the
You
election.
made it the 12th.
Yeah. I made it
So, I don't know, I mean, I feel like this is a little bit tricky,
Can we meet
setting
at
our
4?
meetings based on all possible religious holidays.
Yeah. How
But-
about 4 o'clock? Can we meet at 4? I can meet at 4.
I mean, is that convenient for residents?
That gives them 2 hours.
But then you're gonna have people that are working that are gonna miss it, if we're trying to make it as accessible as possible.
Yep.
I don't have a problem leaving it, to be honest, and that's only because we don't make these accommodations for all religions, and we shouldn't typically even be, you could operate how you want, but I keep town business separate from religion, other than the observed town holidays that we have. I don't know any time we've talked about Muslim holidays that may conflict with anything that we do. And I'm Jewish, not practicing really, but obviously, because I don't know the dates of the holidays. But my point is that as soon as you try to accommodate for every religious holiday, it makes it impossible to set these kind of dates.
I agree, but the resident emailed and just, had requested it. I didn't think it was a huge ask. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed that we're spending this kind of time on it, but again, the 12th, it seems like Mike could be here. I mean, we
I
are
won't be here.
being realistic to say that we are not going to get an ordinance put into place within 4 weeks on short-term rentals, to be honest with you. So the workshop is an important piece of it, but we're not going to be having an ordinance before this council to make a decision on an ordinance for the town. I find it really hard to believe, so I don't know. I think the 12th seems like a good date to do it, but if there's a rush.
I don't know. I think we're just, I don't know. We're starting an hour early at 5. That's in combination, you know.
Why don't we go to the public?
Sure.
Give it some more thought. Stanley, come on up.
Give us some wisdom, Stanley. Because you had the crowd going
Stanley,
earlier
yeah,
there. I thought they were going to
football.
carry off the football field here.
Okay,
Shoulders,
liberty.
Right.
Liberty. That's what you said today, liberty and justice for all, liberty. Therefore, you shall not have this meeting at all. You are fiddling with liberty, rental, short-term rental, long-term rental, I don't care, any kind of rental. I don't care, property rights, property rights.
Discussion.
There is no need to get involved in short-term rental. All I hear is
Stanley,
noise
this
problem.
item is only to change the date.
That's what I'm saying. I do not want to schedule any meeting. There should be no meeting. Never mind changing it. It should be eliminated in order to justify you saying liberty. You're messing up with our liberty. As you get this meeting going, you're going to reduce our liberty here in America, and I'm fighting against that. I want the maximum liberty available, so cut this meeting out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Okay, so we need to have some sort of decision.
Sure,
or
I would
no
like to
decision.
make a motion to schedule the meeting as is.
Second. Let's do an up and down.
So if we don't, we would basically, we don't even have to make that motion because you either approve or reject the change, right? Right. All right, any discussion? Last discussion? All right, so the motion is to change it to the 12th, right? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
All opposed?
Nay.
Sorry, hold on, let me retake this, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No. Motion fails 2-3. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
The motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.